Hi, I'm Robert Trusardi, and the following is a conversation with NRFBTOYSTORE. He was one of the very first supporters of Metasource games and has been participating in crypto and play to earn longer than anyone else I know. Toy Store discusses gaming, play to earn systems, and his 3D printing business. He also shares his insights into happiness.
Burn it
Stuff.
all to the ground.
I know. It's not the
Oh,
thoughts
it's
that
not
I
one of
was
those
expecting.
controversial reveal alls. Oh,
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting. So already, yeah.
we're already off the rails,
What do you
people.
mean by burn it all to the ground? What does that look like to you?
I mean, a few projects I can think of, but uh,
Okay, so not like burn the world to the ground, just like burn some projects to the ground.
yeah. I mean, maybe still some of the world, but yeah, just some projects.
All right, all right. Well, great. Well, let's start with a little bit about you and me because we actually do have a little bit of a history. You were like one of the very first supporters of our company. We were originally selling well, basically like a Kickstarter
Yeah.
for something that we had called the Job Token, and so you were one of the early supporters there. And then also we eventually had our Metasource cards, and we were producing those, and you were like the biggest buyer of those next to another player. I'm not sure if you want me to say his name here, so we'll just keep on. But
That
I
guy.
mean, but I remember the day that you came in, you bought a whole bunch of these, and I was just like, holy crap! I can't believe how much this guy is buying. And so, we've really gotten to know each other since then, and that's been almost like 2.5 to 3 years that we've known each other.
Yeah.
And you've been a big part of our community in our Discord, and as well as Castles, the NFT game. So we do have a little bit of history there. So thanks for thank you for supporting our game and our company. All the way since the beginning. It's really great to have you in the conversation and kind of talk about where we see all this Web3 stuff and where it's going.
Pleasure to be here, and I'm always having fun, and you guys are providing that, so I stick around.
Thank you. So we'll talk a little bit more about Metasource games and castles and stuff, and why why you were like, hey, yeah, let's play this game. But let's first talk a little bit more about like you and your history. So I think you're like the person that I know the most who has been involved in play to earn games inside of like player owned assets, and it's something not a lot of people are really familiar with, trading assets between players and stuff like that. So why don't you kind of share with us, what that's about? Like, how did you get started, and how long have you been doing it for?
Um, Getting started probably goes back. I think the first game that I ever made any money playing, like we're going back to like Mortal Kombat, opening up some characters on a friend's cartridge one day, and I'm like, whoa, I have a skill people will pay for. So once we got into like gaming as we know it today, Ultima Online, which was the first big. I had played MUDs and stuff like that before, but this was like graphics, and I loved the Ultima series. And when I found out that people were actually paying cash for castles because it was such a scarcity inside the servers, I just became devoted playing in game, doing the looting, the dungeons, and all, getting this real estate property as close as you could to town center, and people were paying cash, and it was cracking me up. So from there, I continued on like Diablo, World of Warcraft power leveling. I even got when the Warcraft came out with the cards, I bought a ton of those and was selling all the virtual mounts and stuff like that. And I found people will pay for convenience. Um, Eve, I know, had a big article back when they first came out that there was this whole corporate PvP battling happening and espionage and this 9-month plan to infiltrate this guild. And the guy became like second in command of the guild, took all the assets for himself. And when they calculated it all up, it was like $150,000 of digital space items. This was before ownership or anything was ever discussed. It was just, on a game server. and people were buying these spaceships and basically spending like $5, $10 microtransactions a pop to get these things. And then someone was able to take them. Someone was able to orchestrate a coup and take all these assets. I'm like, that is just pure insanity. Like, that's Viking raiding right there on a digital level. And I started looking for that. Any closed servers, anything where you could, especially RNG, because you had that chance of getting something better. That's what creates this mentality. So people that can't play 50 hours a week to have top tier equipment in Warcraft, they're willing to pay someone a few bucks so they can play with their friends instead of grinding. So it's like an hourly job, except you're not literally grinding in the coal mines. You're just clicking coal mine.
Right. Right. Take me back to the thing with the Mortal Kombat. You said that you were unlocking Mortal Kombat characters. Tell me more about that.
This was, friends would get together and do your co-op game when you could do 4-player co-op on like Super Nintendo and all, but you couldn't transfer from one cartridge to another. Well, you could, but I couldn't afford the technology because, I was a kid. But they just wanted everyone unlocked in Mortal Kombat, everyone unlocked in Tekken. I think the wrestling games too, you needed to unlock people by like beating the game without getting hit, and then you unlock that one skin or something like that. So my friends would just be like, yo, I'll give you $5 if you unlock everything for me. I'm just playing the game anyway, so I just play like 50 hours over the weekend. On Monday, go back to school. It's like, where are my $5?
How old were you when you were doing that?
It's like 13, 14-ish. Sounds about
Was
right.
that like your first business? Was unlocking combat characters?
My first business was hustling people at Pac-Man at the local arcade when I was 5.
What?
That's
Tell
the
me
whole
more.
reason. The whole reason I got a computer, because whenever we go to the laundromat, I'd want to play Pac-Man, and my mother got me a computer because she was tired of giving me quarters. Well, she would tell this story to everyone that I would be there playing Pac-Man, and people would come up and like, "Can I play?" It's like, "Nah, I'm gonna be here for the next half hour." And they're like, "I got a quarter that says you don't last 5 minutes." I'm there for a half hour, and people would literally be gathering around like, "Is this kid ever gonna stop?" And I did, because the laundry was done and we had to go home. But I actually made money playing Pac-Man.
So you made money playing Pac-Man because people were betting on whether or not you'd last a certain amount of time playing Pac-Man. So you just get more quarters because you were winning.
Yeah, it worked out nicely. And from that, my mother got me a Commodore 64 when I was 5, and my aunt and uncle got me a book on computer programming. So I was making dice games and text adventures by the time I was 6. And I never did too much with the programming. I learned enough about it that I could do like mods and stuff for games.
Mhm.
But all the coding, once you look at it for too long, it starts just all jumbling in your brain. It's like, nah, that's not for me. I like to peek behind the curtain, but I don't want to stand back there,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, programming at 5 and 6 is really young. So, how were you figuring out how to code? I mean, I have a similar experience with like some of the first programming I did was actually on calculators. We had like these TI calculators when I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know, 14 or something. But basically, all I did was I went in there and I looked at what all the other programs said. And then I just copied what they were doing. I was like, okay, so this was like if, and then it does this, and then and then it's like draw this image, and I just went in, and I reverse engineered it. But I was like twice the age that you were. So tell me more about like how did you know how to program this
It
thing?
was actually a really good book. It was like an intro guide to basics. So it was 10, uh, go to 20, 20, say hi, stuff like that. But it ran down how to create like maybe 50, like how to create a dice roller, how to create a color palette, and all kinds of stuff. And it just gave you like a basic, maybe half page code. This is what that does. That's what this does. And then just start combining them and design yourself a game. And then once I realized, oh, this is how everything works, I started doing just like you mentioned, go into someone else's program, load it up, and then see how they programmed and be like, oh, that's why that does this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most advanced thing I made was sort of a hmm, sort of like the old Larn game. So you had like a little asterisk there, and he could move around and like fight an orc, like a little battle arena. Like that's the most advanced thing I probably did. But it had like an RNG every time you pressed the button, depending on what item you had equipped. You either had a stick or a bucket. That's all I made. And each one had its own RNG. So it was like one always hit for low damage, or one uh, always hit, but it rolled anywhere from like 1 to 20 damage. So that was just me messing with RNG again, age 5, and just seeing how it worked out. And from then, like I said, I messed around a little bit with coding, and I'd rather play the games than make them. But I've been on computers. I can say an average 4 hours a day, probably since the age of 5. So it balances out because there's been when my sister bought me RimWorld, I put in 400 hours that month. I did not leave. That's the reason I have this brace right here, is just because of RimWorld.
Really?
Yeah.
It was just because very long hours playing RimWorld. It's not even really a click-heavy game, is it? Like,
It's not well, depends on how you play. I was building a lot of different buildings, crops. There's some mods on there that you can make it a little more RPG oriented and RTS oriented. So I have individual units that have special abilities. So it's like click that guy, click here, click this, click this. Every time there was a fight, it turned into a game of micromanagement. What should be a 5-minute battle was a 2-hour epic warfare because of all the things I had going on.
yeah.
And I've actually been talking to the developer of RimWorld just a little bit. He's been looking into Web3 himself.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that would be amazing if you could actually implement something with the RNG and the storytelling. Like that's been a big thing in Web3 lately, is storytelling NFTs. Like you get utility, but also like, what is the purpose of this other than buying and selling it? Like, what is the story involved? I know that's one thing. Metasource, you have like a whole narrative lore and everything built around a lot of the stuff in castles, which again, something else I love because it's more than just an NFT. There is a game involved. There's a story involved. There's something that you can actually, care about.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Uh, so I'm sure we can come back to like RimWorld and NFTs later. I'm still interested in the childhood that kind of got you into this whole, space. And like you, I've spent a lot of time on computers. I'm pretty sure I have had days where I didn't spend 4 hours in front of the computer, but they're not many. The pretty dominant amount of time that I've spent is probably at least 4 or 5 hours in front of a computer. Now, even more hours in front of my cell phone. I haven't been free Discord in a really long time. So I kind of know what that life is like. But if we kind of take it back to, so you were a kid and mom's doing laundry, and you're playing Pac-Man, and you're kind of hustling people for more quarters. You might not have necessarily known what that was.
Oh, I know. I know.
You know. All right, good. So you're self-aware, then, 5 and 6, hustling people for quarters to play more Pac-Man, and then your mom gets you the Commodore 64, and then you get the book, and you're playing around with it, and you're kind of figuring out. And it sounds like you at some point you discovered that you do like playing the games rather than just building the games. And then
Correct.
so was that kind of the next journey for you? Was the Mortal Kombat, was like once you were playing those games with your Mortal Kombat friends, and they're like, "Hey, I'll pay you to unlock this." Was that like the next step on your
Yeah,
on the
that would
game?
definitely be it. It's yeah, that would be it. Probably console, because with computers you could just copy a save file or something like that. As long as there was a disk or hard drive, something involved, just copy a save file. But again, unless you had the technology at the time, you can just copy a cartridge over. I
Mm.
mean, you can buy those like 20, $30 nowadays, but back then it was an industry kept specific asset. So if you wanted to unlock all those characters, you had to put that 50 hours in playing the game in a bunch of different challenge modes to unlock everything. And that just became like a almost every weekend for me. I wasn't even exceptionally good at a lot of these games. It was just I put the time in.
Mm. So you have those skills because you put in the time. But it sounds like you kind of have a special experience where, and this is one of the reasons I want to have this conversation with you, because it seems like you kind of have a special, outlook that a lot of other people don't when it comes to, owning video game items and basically, playing and earning. You really talk about it in a way that nobody else does, and that's kind of why I'm really interested in this journey that you had, and so if we just kind of look at it, you were then, at Pac-Man at 5, and then Mortal Kombat at, like what you said, 12 or 13 or something, and so you're kind of getting this idea that, hey, I can actually get paid for playing video games, which is probably not the experience a lot of other kids have, right? And it was also kind of a self-creation, like you had created this just out of your interest in video games, out of your skills with video games. So it wasn't like someone was coming to you and being like, hey, I need you to test a video game. I'll give you like a salary or something. This was actually something that you had just created out of your own personal interest.
Correct. I can say pretty much all the best paying jobs I've had, I've just created because, well, I felt like getting paid for them. The play to earn has been a big thing. Once we started getting into more than like $5 here, $5 there. Again, Ultima Online, I think that came out. I was like 16, 17 when that dropped. So that started to get into a little more money. And then once Warcraft itself, I was a huge player of the original Orcs versus Humans. Uh, was that the first one? I think first one was Orcs versus Humans, and then Tides of Darkness, Warcraft 1 and 2, and then they actually released the World of Warcraft, which there was nothing like it at the time. Like you had what was that? Like EverQuest, and was RuneScape back there? I never played RuneScape, but World of Warcraft I felt was it was the pinnacle. It was taking a smooth looking game and adding that multiplayer feature. I think the first multiplayer game I ever played was on America Online, RPG wise at least, Neverwinter Nights, which that name has been re-released like 5 times. But originally, do you remember the old gold box sets from TSR, like the Pools of Radiance, where you had like little icons that would fight each other?
Mhm.
This is like old school. TSR made the original Dungeons and Dragons games, and it had a battlefield where like your fighter was just a little tiny, like it was like a shortcut icon, but guy with sword was the fighter, guy with staff was the wizard, the green guys were orcs. And they made like 10 of these games. It's called the Gold Box Edition, and it was just the same engine, and they took all the classic Dungeons and Dragons modulars and turned them into actual games. And it was decent. Um, and AOL took that same engine and turned it into an MMO, and you could actually walk around a dungeon and see other people. I'm not sure if you could trade or anything, but you could fight alongside them. I don't recall if you could fight them. I don't know if it was PvP, but I think that was right around the time of Ultima Online. Ultima Online had, a server you could be on, but you'd have like a few hundred people. The Neverwinter Nights had a few thousand people. Then we get to World of Warcraft, and you have like, even at the beginning, tens of thousands of people all in the same game, same server, maybe not the same house because of instances, but it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And now you have, I don't know, I think they peaked at something like 50 million people, and that was still not a lot of servers. It was maybe like 20 servers worldwide. So if you divide up
Mhm.
the people, there's still like main server has like 5 million people on it, all playing a single game together. And once I started thinking of it that way, and almost kind of like a Ready Player One concept, if we're all in the same area together, someone's willing to pay for something. And on once we got to Warcraft, uh, everyone was always like, "You need to get to max level before you can do anything," and people would be complaining like, "I don't have time to level. I got a job." I'm like, "Well, I don't have a job. How about you pay me to level your character?" And that started with a few friends, and their friends of friends. And I probably, I don't know, I spent about a year just whenever I had time off. I had an actual job, uh, ish. But whenever I had free time, I'd just be playing Warcraft. And once you get good at it, it is work because it's just going through the same grind over and over. But I probably made a few $1,000s my first year just power leveling for people. It was like I'd get you to max level for $50, and if you needed me to go through and get you a few tiers, then it was like, $100 that tier, $300 that tier, because you'd have to do the whole raids. But I do all that, and at the same time, I'd be taking all the gold and all the resources I made with them, transferring that to my main account. So my main account was like level 30 with like 20,000 gold, and completely controlled the auction house. And I was just, I was having fun because like people didn't really know who I was, but I was able to do some pretty mass changes in the game, like buying out all the leather and doubling the price in certain regions just to see if I could. And I was able to reshape in-game economy. And I mean, if you compare that to, worldwide, like I can do these little micro and macro changes that actually have an impact on the real world, because people were buying gold, people were buying mounts, people were spending real money in this game. But inside these servers, I was able to control certain things. And that just kind of got me into that headspace of, if you get really good and really vested inside of a game, there is definitely profit. It can be a full-time business. And other people thought that too. And that's why you have like, foreign countries have like whole barracks of people just playing Warcraft, like 2,000 people living together, working together in shifts, just getting gold so they can resell. I'm just one guy, but I could always find a niche somewhere that I could make a profit and have fun doing it.
Yeah, and I like that it was organic for you, right? Like you were just like, yeah, sure, I'll just play this character, make $50, and I like that your ambition wasn't necessarily to create like a new barracks in China somewhere and become like a sweatshop worker, because that's a whole other level of
I mean, I have offered to my friends, like, come over to my house, you can wear PJs, all the energy drinks you want, I'll pay you $10 an hour to play games. Because there was enough stuff, like all these daily missions and all you have to do between games. It was becoming stressful trying to keep up with stuff. But yeah, it was very organic. It was just like, I'm having fun. Oh, you need help? Well, I'll trade my time. Just like any other job, I'm trading my time and skill for something that you need, providing a service. And word of mouth, if you provide, apparently they felt it was a good service because it was just word of mouth. I didn't advertise or nothing. And just everyone's contacting me. Can you level me? Can you get me this equipment? And it started going across games. Oh, you're playing Warcraft. Do you play Diablo? Can you get me some armor in Diablo? Oh, are you playing what was that other one? One of the silly games like Neopets or something. I don't know. One of them, Neopets or Club Penguin, whatever one did breeding, then that became a whole thing. And some of my friends that had the same mentality, my best friend, she's the same way, that she will get into games and play them to the point that she's so good people want to pay her either to play or the item she finds. She's RNG queen, so she gets all the best of everything somehow. So I just bring more friends in, and all of us are just gaming together, and I'm probably the one that made the most profit from it, because I guess it's just the way my mind works. I like making money out of spite, I think, is the easiest way to put it, because everyone's like, oh, I can't figure out what I want to do with my life. Well, or they can't figure out how to make money and do what they want to do with their life. It's like, just combine the two. Someone is willing to pay for anything out there. You want to be an artist, people will pay you. It might not be the exact venue that you want, but you can work your way up there. If you like swimming, people will pay you to swim, or maybe fix pools, like find that edge in there. And I guess I was never it never got grounded in my head that like 9 to 5 till you die mentality. It was always, there's some way to earn money out there. My mother, she was a certified beautician, certified electrician, subcontractor. She was actually going to school when she passed to be a journalist. She did web pages. She just got bored. And every 2 years, it's like, I'm going to do a new career. When I was born, she was driving 18 wheelers coast to coast. And from what I heard, I grew up in the back of a cab for about the first 9 months of my life. And then she's like, okay, let's settle down. I'm going to become an electrician. So she installed that same mentality is, yes, you need to pay bills, but there's going to be something you enjoy. I mean, I've worked as a trash man, but I enjoyed it. I was getting paid twice what all my friends were making, and it was a workout. I didn't have one of those neat little cranes. I had to pick up the trash and throw it in. So it saved me a trip from the gym. I was making twice as much as everyone I knew, and I was outside getting fresh air. So I don't know. I try to put a good positive spin on a lot of things because everything can be worse. And I feel you can find something to smile about in everything you do if you try.
Yeah, so it sounds like your mom was a big inspiration in being multi-talented. And it seems like your impression of her was that she enjoyed what she was doing.
Oh yeah, she pretty much everything I can think of. I mean, growing up, we definitely did not have a lot of money, and she was actually disabled, so it limited what she could get into, and things just kind of progressed with eyesight over the years, so she could do less and less. So I think that was also part of it. Possibly medical issues forced her to go from one industry to another, but she never
Mhm.
just went, "Oh, I'm too sick to work." It was, "Let me find something else I can do." She did not like to sit still. She always wanted to be active. Always, if she wasn't working, she was volunteering. And that same, just again, mentality of you're not stuck anywhere. Anywhere you are is where you choose to be. That was something
Mhm.
she always, put into my head. If you don't like where you're at, change it. It might not be immediately, but you can take a step in the direction every day of where you want to go. Don't just sit there and be like, life sucks. There's nothing I can do about it. Oh, well. No, you can always make progress. You can always better yourself. It just it takes time. That's not one thing you can always control, but you can control how you spend your time.
And I think I see this manifesting in your interactions with our community. Is we've had kind of a hard year with crypto and stuff, but even when the market's been up or whether or not it's been down, you really do kind of come across as having a sense of agency, and that you're not like a victim to these things. And even if there's something that you don't like, you'll give us, like if there's something that change that we've made in our game that you don't like, it's not like you're just going to take there and eat it. You're like, hey, why don't you guys do this and just come out with a paragraph of different things that we could do. But but what I get from you is a sense of like agency that you're not just going to kind of take there and take it or turn it into something bad. That you have a personal power around this environment.
Exactly. I mean, you can't control everything, but you do have powers in this life. Even the littlest person can affect like a corporation with the right words in the right ear, something like that, and have change happening. Now, with Web3, it is a lot of small communities. Uh, I can name like half the Discord channel off the top of my head, like their handles and all, and probably tell you their schedules and even what they're eating for breakfast. Like we've become that much of a tight knit group over years at this point. And with that, and with devs that actually listen and can see that sometimes changes are positive, sometimes they're not, sometimes it's a mixed bag. And being able to be within a project that works with you is very nice because a lot of them, they don't. I've had some projects just straight ban me from the channel for speaking my mind. And I mean, I definitely have some strong thoughts at times, but I try to I always try to back them up. Like, this is how I'm seeing it. Yes, I don't like this, but this is why. This is the math, or this is the sentiment, or this is how I see it affecting the psychology of the community. I'm not just going to say, this sucks, fix it. No, this sucks. This is why it sucks. Now fix it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's really practical, right? Rather than we sometimes do see people come in and like make comments, and then I have to try to decipher why they're making these comments. They're like, "Your game sucks. I hate it. I left,
And I'm
but
just like, who are
I
you? I've
still
never
play
seen
the
your name
hero."
before.
And
Who
it's
are you
like,
even
what's that?
talking? I've seen these people complain. It's like, who are you? Like, you've just come into the chat. I'll look at people's wallets. They have no assets, and they're complaining about the game. It's like, you literally just walk through the door, listen to a song or two before you say the band sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, you're speaking with experience and particularly our game, being someone who holds assets. But I mean, we do appreciate that kind of feedback where you have a whole case, or if you want to see changes or something for why that is.
Yeah, and it's always like, not everything's gonna work. I've voiced plenty of suggestions that don't personally work out for me. And that's another thing. I think some of the big asset holders that we do have in the castles community, a lot of them do try to speak from a unbiased as possible nature. Like, I know a few of us have said, like, okay, this totally screws up what I'm doing, but it is going to be better in the long run. I'm going to have to change my strategy, but this should work better for new players. Like, we can see that and understand that. You do have a lot of projects I see in Web3, though, that they do not get that. Any changes is looked at as a bad thing because the ones controlling the assets don't want to lose their edge. And
Mhm.
that is something unique to, I mean, I've probably been in and out of 100 different projects easily. I'm probably still in 40 or 50 of them with at least some kind of asset holding waiting. But I'd say Castles is one of the very few that have a community that tries to understand the grand scheme of things instead of just looking at that one change and immediately going, no, this destroys everything. Like, no, maybe there's a bigger vision here. And that's, again, one of the better things about the community. And I tell everyone, community should be one of your biggest green flags for a project. You go into a project and it's just 3 days of nonstop negativity. Why would you want to be there?
Yeah. Well, for us, it's about people like you, right? Who, you're real people, you're playing the game, you bought, assets to play the game, and we want more of you. We want more people, playing the game. And so it's really great to kind of, sit down and talk to you. I don't necessarily want to talk, over too much about castles. I'm
Yeah.
really interested in, your play to earn journey. So, uh, so the next step from the from Mortal Kombat for you for play to earn gaming was then Ultima Online, which came out like what, 1996 or 1997, something like that.
97, I believe.
97.
End of 97. So I think it was, I didn't start playing right away. Think, I think it was like probably summer of 98. I started playing Ultima Online. So at that point, they got up to enough player base that they had a few different servers. And the first one, it got so filled up with all these castles and all that people that came in late were paying money, actual money. I'm not sure if we had PayPal at that time. I think PayPal existed in the late night. I don't know. However, we
It
were
might have
paying
been like a year later, like 98 or 99, but
it.
yeah.
It was to the point that people were paying cash, offering money to get in these
Mhm.
prime spots on the main server. So I just started playing, the second most popular server that had people, but they hadn't amassed enough assets to actually start building castles, or they had not started grabbing like the real estate. And inside the game, I started flipping. Like, I'd put everything I had into getting land. And then when people came in, it's like, oh, you want this land? Well, I need 50,000 gold, which I'd use to buy like the next 3 plots and start building them up, and then just do the same thing. I was just plot flipping inside the game. Once it got to the point that the area around the town center, the spawn point, expanded so much, I went to the next server and just did the same thing. And once it got to a point that, we had PayPal. I remember receiving money orders from two different people for actual properties. Uh, and that was just, hey, here's my address, send it to me, and I'll transfer it over. And they put a lot of trust in that. But that was the only way they could get what they want. And
Right.
if someone's paying me, $500 for a virtual asset, they probably have it to spare. And I found a lot of these guys are computer nerds that made it good. I feel that's a lot of Web3 right now too. But this was when the .com was booming and all, and you had those computer guys that were early that became millionaires overnight once people started realizing the internet was not a fad. And they did not want to spend all that time grinding. They didn't want the house all the way out. They want the house in dead center so they can show off all their nerdy digital stuff to their nerdy digital friends.
Mhm.
And once I realized that mentality existed, that people with money had certain interests and that aligned with me having fun. And that's really my play to earn journey, is people are willing to pay for what they want. And there are plenty of the way that video gaming is nowadays. That's why profile pictures, they've gone so crazy. I personally am not paying $10 million for a monkey. That's not my thing. But I can understand it because it's clout in the industry. And the amount of that you can say that I have enough extra disposable income that I can put $20 into a monkey picture, like that says something. Again, it's all clout, not only in the industry. Before, it was always in the industry, but I feel Web3 is bringing that to mainstream. That's why you have like Jimmy Fallon has a monkey and Snoop Dogg has a monkey, because being nerdy has become trendy. And now with Web3, it's taken video games as a whole, bringing those to the forefront. And before, it wasn't cool to game. Now you have, Snoop Dogg streaming like every other night, playing Modern Warfare. William Shatner was streaming, playing World of Warcraft last year. Um, Shatner was even talking about, I think, the new Warcraft expansion. Which cracks me up. You think William Shatner, he's a serious gamer, and he's into Web3. He did it wasn't very successful, but he did a very limited drop on Wax of like, it was like signature NFT art or something like that. But even William Shatner occasionally just brings up Web3 and cryptocurrency like once a month out of nowhere.
I didn't know that. I didn't even know he was a game.
Oh yeah, they actually had him on a World of Warcraft commercial like 15 years ago, and he was playing like a gnome warlock, I think, and it kept going back and forth between him and his character, like merging them together. But yeah,
I think I might remember that. They had Mr. T in those commercials too, right? Like, Mr. T goes wrong.
what do you mean I can't have a night elf mohawk?
Yeah, these days, no kids even remember who the heck Mr. T was. Like, who the heck is Mr. T? He's like Hulk Hogan. Who's Hulk Hogan? It was,
No, you can't say who's Hulk Hogan, man. Come on.
Well, why not like Hulk Hogan? But he is about that age. He's from this era, from the 80s and 90s.
I mean, they actually, I think it was like WrestleMania 3. They actually had a match together.
Did they? Did Mr. T and
Mr. T did a little wrestling yeah, I think it was like one of the WrestleManias or Survivor Series, but yeah, actually had Mr. T versus Hulk Hogan at one point. That was like the first strand of when WWF was still WWF, and they started getting like the big names, like actors and stuff, coming on board. And yeah, Mr. T went against Hulk Hogan for a match or two. And now you got Logan Paul getting into wrestling, which is actually very entertaining. I know everyone hates him, but I've always seen him like, he's that mentality of, I'm just going to do what I enjoy. And he found out people would pay him. A lot of that was paying him to be stupid, which was just, he was doing modern day Jackass, is when you come down to it, with him and his brother on like the Vines and the YouTube and just the stupid stuff they were doing. And then at that point, he started like playing with Pokemon cards and finding rare Pokemon cards, and people were enjoying it. He's like, okay, I'm going to get paid for playing Pokemon now. Sure. And then he's like, I'm going to work out. Oh, well, you're working out. I bet you can't beat up this guy. I don't know. You going to pay me? I'll beat him up. And like, that's been how I've seen his career. It's like, I mean, if you pay me, I'll beat him up. And he's become the star of just again, it almost feels like making money out of spite. It's like, oh, you say I can't do that, I can't have fun and make money? Bring it.
So making money out of spite, like you're saying that it gives you, like you feel motivated, like you get energy from people saying that you can't make money from something, but you prove them wrong.
Many times I've literally had people in the same sentence tell me I need to get a real job and then ask me if I can help them with their rent. Same sentence. And this was when I was NRFB Toy Store at one point was an actual toy store. And I was doing a lot of stuff, mostly online sales. It went exclusively online, but I'd be shipping 100 packages a day. I was a premier eBay power seller back when power seller meant something. And yeah, 100 packages a day. I would show up at the post office, pull up to the back door, knock. Same time every day. It was 5 minutes before close, and they knew it was me. I'd knock, and they'd be like, "Bring them in," and I just drop like a whole trash bag of packages. It was mostly little stuff, trading cards, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, tabletop miniatures, toys. A lot of this stuff, I would actually look for old comic stores and toy stores going out of business, and I'd spend like $20,000 and have like a freight truck just roll up and drop me their entire inventory on my front lawn, and then spend days going through it, dividing it up. And I mean, I've had so many times, oh, someone, this was beautiful for me, not for them. There are companies out there that you can take your stuff to and they'll sell it for you on eBay so you don't have to worry about anything. Someone took a whole box of original Star Wars 1977, 79, 81 original Star Wars toys to this company, and they listed them four-legged robot instead of an at Walker four-legged robot. I I spent $300 on the auction, $200 on shipping. I seriously got an original intact. It was missing like two stickers, Millennium Falcon. That paid for the entire lot on its own. And yeah, I've spent about 500 after shipping. The DHL driver hated me. The boxes were as big as me, and each weighed 80 pounds. But it was nonstop vintage stuff in there, and the person just didn't know how to list it. And I just repackaged everything, sold it, made probably about 8,000 in sales off of just that one flip. And I actually kept, the really fun thing was some of the toys were not opened at all, and they still had the original price tags on them, and I kept the price tags. So it had, like $8 for this toy that I'm reselling now for like 500 bucks. So when the making money out of spite is, people always like, oh, you're just playing with toys, like you need to get a real job. No, I don't. How much money did you make this week? Yeah, no, I don't. And it's not about the money. Like I've when I did a marketing gig for a while, like I was my actual education is I have triple bachelor's, marketing, economy, and psychology. It's actually consumer psychology, so it's very specific on brainwashing people. How to make that new Tickle Me Elmo and get people to buy it, because that's like my dream with the toy stores. I want to make that item that parents are punching each other during Christmas to try to get. So that's the Tickle Me Elmo is the pinnacle of toy making, in my opinion. But like I have this education, I haven't put a lot of it to official use, except the one time I was doing marketing. So I was riding around in limos, eating at like $70 plate restaurants, and it was nice. But the more the more you make, the more you're spending. It becomes a lifestyle. So I didn't really want that. I don't want to ever be a millionaire. I I could potentially do it. I don't want to be, because people start asking you for a whole lot of money, especially the IRS, and it doesn't become fun. So I try to find work that, again, playing video games or contract work where I can work 2 months, knock out whatever needs to be done, and then spend 10 months just doing what I want, pursuing a passion, doing a hobby. If I get residual kickbacks from like video games or other investments, that just helps things. But I'm more of I will hustle for 2 or 3 months, knock out, 70-hour weeks for 3 months, and then take a year off. And that's always seemed a lot more entertaining, a lot more cathartic, and a lot more manageable than 9 to 5. The 40 hours a week doing shifts, I mean, just driving back and forth to work, you're killing time. Then you have the lunch hour you don't get paid for. I've never understood it, and I've almost always avoided it.
So you've avoided making lots of money so that then you don't have all this money to manage, and people aren't asking you for more money. You're not paying more taxes. Do you have I mean, I'd imagine for some people they'd start to worry about like, the long term, like, hey, like, what if for some reason your wrist breaks from playing a RimWorld and now you can't make, you can't use your computer and you can't make money for from the age of like, I don't know, 70 to like 100. I think a lot of people start to worry about, oh, I need to basically make sure that I get some retirement money. Is there like, I mean, while you've been building basically, these Web3 empires and going through all these stages, have you had a plan for that? Or are you just like, you know what, actually, I'm just going to make this work out the way it's working out, that I'm just going to keep going through these cycles of making money, enjoying myself, making money, enjoying myself?
Mostly the latter, because it works out nicely for me, and I have a lot of video games to play. But I'm not completely like, no one needs money. At any time in my life, I always keep at least like 6 months of savings to cover all my current bills.
Mhm.
If the car breaks down, that's usually enough to get a new car, stuff like that. But I've learned enough skills over time. Again, these times I take off a year, I'll get into something. Like at one point, I got really into fish. I just had like 7 fish tanks set up. I was breeding fish. I was making red, white, and blue guppies. You can sell those on eBay too. But
Together.
I was just having fun. Just with a fish. A friend gave me a fish, and it just all snowballed from there. The same friend that got me RimWorld, so she obviously knows my obsession kickboxes.
Uh,
But I got a beta fish at her wedding, and from there it's like, oh, this is a cool fish. Let me get another fish, and it was one of those tiny fish, Oscar fish, that turned into one of these fish. So I kept buying bigger and bigger tanks for it, and then it's like, well, I got 7 tanks, I can't leave them empty. And yeah, it just all snowballed from there. And
Interesting.
then I'm like, oh man, I'm breeding these snails, and I'm not trying to breed them; they just breed on their own. People on eBay are buying snails, so it's like, okay, I can ship live snails if I want. But I didn't really make any money on the fish stuff. That was just for fun. 3 years later, local community needed someone to maintain their pools. Well, it turns out like the pool filters and all, same exact thing as the fishing filters, just bigger mechanics, uh,
Mhm.
more chemicals. From learning that, I learned how to take care of the local sewer treatment plant. I had the company actually pay for me to go to local college, get certified, and I'm making, $40 an hour just going through and checking levels on the septic systems in the area. And on top of that, can work on call if they need to be repaired. I don't do any repairs myself. I just show up and be like, this is the problem. Give me my money. So now I've found jobs that are in demand, contractual, that for the most part I can do when I want. It's not a 9 to 5. It's we'll call you if we need you and then show up in the next 48 hours. So it gives you more free reign. But they're all pulling like, 40, $80 an hour. So I don't have to, dedicate a whole week. I can just work like 2 days here and there. So I've accumulated all this miscellaneous job skills throughout the year, throughout my lifetime, that uh, at any point I can pick up like 7 different jobs, and if I really wanted to, do them all at the same time. And if I have something I want to purchase, like right now, I've been aiming to get myself a farm for retirement. I was happy where I was at, but it's a homeowners association. I can walk to the ocean, but homeowners association constantly on you about what you can put outside and what color your house can be and all this stuff. And you can't be cranking the music at 2 a.m. to dance to Taylor Swift, just ridiculous restrictions on me right now that I'm like, I need my own property. So as of the last like 6 months, I've been hustling more, primarily in the crypto world, trying to accumulate more money so I can just, buy a farm next year, not have to worry about it. At that point, I'll get back to my, you know, 2 months on, 1 year off schedule once that primary is taken care of. So I'm hoping by summertime I should have enough to just buy like 20 acres in cash, like upper New York or Minnesota or something like that, and just be gone. Hook up some solar panels so I don't have to worry about electricity, pay my house in cash. Then I can just do equity mortgage and live off of that. And yeah, life be good.
So I love your strategy, kind of the same strategy that I see you executing on with the play to earn gaming stuff. Really just seems to filter through, everything from like, your hobbies to, fish to just having other resources around like fish tanks. You just happen to have some fish tanks around. You see that as like a resource for life, for like doing things as a lifestyle. Like, hey, so I'm going to use this to breed more fish, sell those fish, and now, hey, I actually know how to use these filters. So I'm going to go train myself to work at a sewage plant and make the best kind of money that that maybe someone could find working inside of sewage support or infrastructure, however you want to
Exactly.
call it.
It's one of those that, yeah, just getting the certification is like doing the work is $10 an hour. Having the certification is $40 an hour. It's just one of those. Certification isn't too expensive either. It's just knowing how. And it's mostly just tracking numbers, making sure everything's right. So it's just little things like that that I feel there's a lot of careers out there people can learn. Like if you like animals, there are places that not just like vets, but there are places that take care of animals, like research facilities and stuff like that, that they will pay you to go to school and get whatever certifications you need, as long as you have the passion for the industry. Like there's all kinds of stuff that people can get into, like especially gaming, Web3. There's so many grants, and companies are like, hey, you have a passion for gaming, learn how to program, be a part of the game. And if you show promise, if you show potential, these companies are willing to pay for your education because they need that talent. And a lot of people I feel just don't see opportunities. I look around left and right, nothing but opportunities out there. And when I say make money out of spite, it's because so many people are like, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. It's like, you choose to be stuck, my friend. I'll be happy to help you and show you options. And the normal response is, no, I need a real job. And I'm just here like playing video games, making, $240 an hour selling blankos. And it's like, okay, you do you. I can't argue people into bettering their lives. Took a while to convince myself that, but it is one of those you can't teach someone that doesn't want to learn. And I know a lot of times when I'm talking, people think I'm crazy, but like I will back up the math at any point.
Yeah. Well, do you think it's just that they don't understand your lifestyle, like or is it because you were saying before that you felt like they didn't see that what was it, that they felt like you're just like wasting your life or something? What was it? It was some term you said something like that, right?
Yeah,
Is it just that they don't understand your lifestyle, or you think they're really trying to like control your lifestyle in such a way, or trying to
I,
benefit
I
themselves?
think it's the fear of the unknown. It just comes down to that, and we're very much, I mean, not to go too political, but everyone's used to that. You go to school, which is basically a 9 to 5 for like 12 years. Then you go to college, which is, running yourself ragged nonstop to get a piece of paper, just to go to a 9 to 5 job for 30 years. Like that's programmed in so many people's minds. And
Hmm.
once you've done it for so long, it's hard to even imagine anything out there that's different. And if you are being successful doing something different, people always assume like you're doing something I'm not. Whether you're successful or not, it must not be real. It must be fake. It must be a scam. And it's like, no, it's just different. That's all it is. It's just different. And I had in my younger days, I had the benefit of having some medical issues, which Once I hit about fourth grade, I was not able to attend school regularly. So I started homeschooling. So it kind of pulled me out of that, 9 to 5 mentality. It's just finish your test up and you're good. And I found out I could actually graduate early if I finished enough tests. So I graduated high school when I was 15
Mhm.
and went right into college, took advanced electives in high school. So covered all my basic college stuff. And at that point, my physical health was better, so I could actually attend college. And at the same time, I did not just go in and just do all the tests. I got up with all my professors first day and be like, I'll make you a deal. Give me the end of the semester test. Give me the midterms. Give it to me now. If I pass it, you just mark my attendance. And 9 out of 10 professors agreed with me. They didn't want to see me. That was usually my message. Do you
Wow.
really want this
Hardball
coming in?
negotiation for
Do you really want my my think I know it all self in here every week questioning you? Huh? Most of them agreed to it, and I passed all the tests. So my college years was what most people are doing now is just zooming with your teacher like once a week, or emailing like what needs to be done. I'll get this to you. And yeah, I only had like 2 physical classes I had to attend for most of my college. And then when I went for my bachelor's, it was the same thing. Just got up with the professors, got up with the institution, be like, what do I actually have to attend versus what can I test out of? And yeah, you actually don't have to attend 90% of the college classes if you know what you're doing. And they even started doing that. I think they're called like real world diplomas or something now, that if you can just show that you know everything, you can get an equivalent of a degree. And they started doing that a few years ago. And I don't know if I created that. I might be earned some, trademark, but again, just not accepting what can be. I find if I find something more effective, more efficient, more optimized, I'm gonna try it. If I get denied, oh well, it's a little bit of time wasted. But if it works, all the time I save, I can play video games.
I love that, you know what your end result is.
It all
Like,
comes
here's
down
all
to
the
video games, man.
opportunities,
Like, have
here's
you
all the
looked at my
angles, but the
Steam?
end results playing video games.
Uh, I think on Steam, just my one account on Steam, primary wasted time, I'm like top 700. I'm
No
like
way.
number
What?
one in my state, maybe number two, but it's like something like 6,000 games and like 22,000 hours, and that doesn't even count, Blizzard app, Epic launcher, anything. That's just the one Steam account has, and
The
I'm very
amazing
proud
thing
of
is that you're probably competing with all these other people who like share accounts.
that. Yeah,
That's a
no,
big
it's like
time.
this is just me.
This is one guy versus all the who knows the other 700 people all share accounts.
Uh, that's like the whole family account that's just attached 24/7, and there's like 5 kids rotating, and then there's just me playing Left 4 Dead, like pew pew pew.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, well, I think, it's pretty amazing how you have been able to, create these opportunities. And it's not everybody. He says that most people, they go and they're like, hey, so I'm going to do my classes. It's fed food. It's spoon fed to me that I go to class, at 9 to 5, and then once that's over, I, maybe go to university. After university's over, then I do that with the job. And whereas you're more just making your own way, you're creating your own way of life, whereas other people just kind of have it basically draconians fed to them the way it's fed to everybody else. And you might be right that it has to do with that fear, right? Like, people don't know why other people live a life that's different. Like, why wouldn't you just follow the structure that society has given you?
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm also someone who's a little outside that box, so I can understand like why you have your reasons for wanting to live outside what society might tell you exactly what to do. And one of my things, I'm creative, right? Like, I want to have the opportunity to adapt. I like having that opportunity. So it's a little bit differently from how you seem to view things, where it seems like, you know, you're essentially trying to create more space to live a life that you seem to know you want to have, which is like playing games, maybe, you know, some hobbies, racing your animals and stuff like that. I'm sure it's not all 100% games, right? Like, I know you have animals like turtles and things that you like.
They, I really think the reason I have those is just so I take a break from staring at my screen, because that I mean, even though I'm playing games all the time, it's not healthy. I miss my you can't see it from here, but I used to do VR. I had a really nice VR setup. When I was doing marketing, I stayed in hotels a lot. And I would flip over the bed, and I had a VR system that I'd just be in the middle of the room. Had it was a wired one, so I had the wires going across the ceiling, had little suction cup hooks and all. I have like some old YouTubes you can watch me playing, just middle of a hotel room, tipped over queen size bed.
This was an
But
Oculus?
yeah, Oculus Rift. It was awesome. They had a Marvel game, and you could be Wolverine, and you're just there. "Ah!" Your arms died in a minute, but the matches are 5 minutes long. You're just turn into jelly. I tried to do that when I got home. I was playing Skyrim. There was a dragon in the sky, and I'm trying to shoot an arrow at him. Boom! Hole through the ceiling. Because I'm like 6'3". So another motivation is getting the new place. I'm going to have a VR specific room, have at least 2 spots set up for me and my partner, and have like probably computers along the side, at least 4 systems, so I can run games, do LAN parties, but have space that I can do the VR, so I can count that as exercise. You know, yeah, I took a walk in nature.io. Uh,
That's funny.
but that's like, that's what pushes me. It's not the earning the money that pushes me. It's this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to have 20 acres. I'm going to have enough space to grow my own vegetables, have a vegetable garden, an herb garden, because I love to cook, have a spot for all my turtles to run free, so they can get the natural sun. Or I might just do a swamp room, because I have my turtles, my partner has lizards. So we might just do a room that's constantly 80 degrees and a mini rainforest inside the house. And you know, these are my goals. It's not making money, and I feel that's where a lot of people get stifled. Is once they make the money, what are you going to do with it? They're like, oh, I'm going to, you know, get a Lambo and put big tires on it. And okay, well, is that what you really want? No, but that shows everyone I'm rich. What do you want? You know, make that goal, find out how much. If it's to travel the world, like, you know, you can get uh round trips to like Ireland tickets and spend like a month there just walking the countryside checking out castles for under $5,000, and including plane tickets, stay, food, everything. And that sounds like a ton of fun. So, you know, set the goal and figure out what you need to set aside to achieve it. And once you have that goal in mind, instead of just arbitrarily earning money, you can find a lot more motivation, I've found. So, you know, figure out what your joy costs and then aim for that. Not just accumulate money, not just I need to do better. No, I want to take a trip to Ireland. I want to get a better gaming system. I want to, I don't know if there's anything else in the world. I'm a very simple man. I want to eat at something simple. I want to eat at a 5-star Gordon Ramsay restaurant, which that is pretty pricey. That's probably like $200, $300 a plate, I'm guessing, but it's still a goal to have. Make these goals, and you know, if you have to put them up on the wall and be like, you know, $20 made today, $30 made today, I made $5 today, it's still a step. And work towards achieving those specific goals instead of just do better. Well, why are we doing better? Earn money. Why are we earning money past basic survival? There has to be more in life than basic survival, at least for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's, you know, it's a great structure to follow, you know, having, you know what you want and then create a structure for achieving that goal. What do you tell people who keep falling short of that goal? Like, let's say someone who's like, okay, especially what we just went through, right? With, you know, a lot of people who are crypto hodlers just got demolished over the last year. And what would you suggest to those people who basically got demolished and maybe they had some goals and they thought they were on their way and now they're set back?
Probably for them, I'd ask like, well, why were you using that strategy to begin with? Because I don't believe in hodling. Like I usually make more money when things are going down, just because I'm sniping as the chart moves, or with as much as the Web3 play to earn, I'm investing in assets. So even when the market's down, I'm still accumulating something. But I'd ask them like, why did you have that strategy? And pretty much everyone's like, well, if I hold the coins, they're going to go up in value. No, that's no guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed to go up. Like there's a few primary coins out there that everyone thinks is going to hit $100,000 in a year or 5 years or 10 years. That's not a guarantee. There could be a coin that none of us even know about that could be the top coin next year. All it would take is like Amazon saying we're taking the Zani coin, and then that's going to blast off beyond everything else. So just holding something for the sake of holding it's not an investment. If you had a stock that you bought that was nonstop going down, would you keep holding it? Some people would, because they're like, oh, it has to come back up. No, it can pink slip and completely fade from existence. Nothing is guaranteed to go up. So you need to keep that in mind. So now with the market, knowing that there is potential that coins can go up, are you going to invest now when the market is low, while we're in a bear market, when everything is, people like to say, clearance special? Are you going to invest now? You believed in the technology, you believed in the concept before, you believed it would make money before, but you paid the sticker price. Now we're at the 90% off sale. Are you going to invest in it now? Did you believe in the technology, or were you just trying to win the lottery overnight because your ticket did not come in? Sorry, you are
Yeah.
not going to the chocolate factory. But you have the chance now to enter not just a lottery, but do your own research, figure out where things are going to be. Like, I love gaming tokens, but I really think the technology field is technology, security, medical is going to be a huge pushing into the crypto blockchain market. Like I could see, 5 years from now, the DMV being completely on blockchain. There's no reason it shouldn't be. We've already seen some blockchains being utilized during COVID. There is some countries using the blockchain, using NFT COVID vaccination papers. So everything is time stamped and on the blockchain. It can be verified. And if you have to get into an event, it just scans a QR code. And all this is blockchain technology. Once that comes to the mainstream, it doesn't even have to be accepted by the masses. It's going to be adopted by the masses because they're going to have no other way. If DMV switched all car titles to blockchain, if they switched all land parcels to blockchain, all you need is just one city, one city to decide to attempt that. And if it works out, it's going to be the whole US. Like it's going to avalanche so quickly that you could see complete conversion within like 5-10 years, because you have to renew your car. Like I don't know if that's a state to state thing, like every 3, 5, 7 years, depending on state, depending on car.
California, it's like every year or two.
Every I think
Yeah.
when I had an old
Renew the
vehicle, it was every 2
registration,
years
yeah.
because of emissions, but the newer vehicles are like every 5 years because they don't have the emission issues. But let's say within 10 years, if everyone has to renew their stuff even every 5 years, within 10 years, all vehicles could be NFTs. And then when you want to sell something, you literally just have to scan a QR code. Like you don't have to worry about all the paperwork, all the signatures, insurance. You just send the insurance company the transaction that shows you own the vehicle. Now, boom, now you got insurance. Like I really feel that is where the future is going. It wasn't the art, it wasn't the gaming. I think gaming adapts it, and I think gaming is going to promote it. But I really feel it's going to be the everyday stuff that is what is adopted by the masses. And once they see, oh, our entire life is now on blockchain, play to earn is just going to be another 9 to 5 job.
So why would play to earn be another 9 to 5 job if other things are adopting the blockchain?
At that point, it's going to become the norm. So we could actually be signing into like virtual offices. Like there's already, again, people working from home doing Zooms, stuff like that. They could actually create like a virtual office space so people could still socialize, because that is a big part, a big thing I've seen hitting a lot of people with COVID and quarantine and working from home. They are missing a lot of their social interactions. And at that point, I mean, I hate to say it, but it goes into Wall-E territory, that we're all just sitting in our chairs with the glasses on, and that's where we do all of our work. And the immersiveness of Web3 and virtual reality would replace everyday life. So again, Wall-E, Ready Player One, there's so much stuff. Unless you're having to do physical labor, anything logistics, even security wise, medical therapy. A friend of mine just got a surgery performed from a robot. Someone was remotely controlling the robot, and uh, it was the first day they were using it. And it's like, don't worry, you're the third person up. We're testing it on the other two people. And she's like, oh, that's great.
So much better now.
And it was a very invasive surgery too. It was
Yeah.
like scalpels and lasers and sutures and all, and it was all done remotely with a robot. So virtual reality, it is a thing. It is going to be taking over a lot of industries. When you can have a doctor stay away from the sick people and still do their job, because doctors and nurses, they get sick more than anyone because they're always around it. So if you can have these professionals, and you can have the top surgeon in the world be in any hospital in a matter of seconds, that's going to be huge. So I feel like the virtual reality is going to be taking over that. If we're living virtually, why shouldn't all of our certificates, transactions, money handling also be on a digital virtual concept? I mean, credit cards right now could instantly switch over to blockchain for tracking purposes, and no one would notice. It'd be a little slower unless they can get, a faster chain happening. But a lot of the stuff that we do digitally could be converted to blockchain and eliminate central servers. And that's the big thing. People don't realize, like, when your Mediacom's out or your Verizon's out, or you can't watch ESPN, it's because a server unit has died off a lot of times. And they have, maybe like 6 servers placed around the country. If you actually adopt blockchain technology and they have the nodes set up and it's created as a decentralized entity, you're going to have thousands. If one server drops down, it's not going to affect you. So as we're developing more integral types of technology, I feel we need blockchain to take care of it. We need the decentralization to keep everything in order, because there's only so many warehouses we can build of server farms. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in one, but it's like a Walmart hollowed out that just has like 8-foot tall computers lined up in rows.
I've seen their movies and TV, not personally.
I've been in at a military base where they had a centralized, because they didn't want anything on the main network, because military stuff. And yeah, it was like, it wasn't that big. It was maybe like a Domino's or something, but it was just all the servers as big as me, and it was just hard drives. That's all it was, is just thousands of hard drives to store information. Well, they had that information. Then they had the backup server that was not connected, like they didn't have any networking at all. They keep building all these servers, and you're going to need one for like every company and all. If you can actually get blockchain utilized along with security measures through the transaction IDs and all, you can have a ton of information on blockchain that's only accessible with that, that private key or some kind of access key. You could spread out, instead of having everyone has their individual server units, just blockchain, all decentralized, and only the select people can decrypt the information. I think it would be a lot more economically sound with all the money we spend now, like not on miners, but again, these server units and keeping information like that going. And that's why I said the medical field, if you could get all medical records onto blockchain, but it's only accessible by, the doctors themselves. You like the nurse comes in, scans your personal identification info, and then boom, all your medical history from all your doctors pops up. No more having to request x-rays from the other office. No more losing out information from that surgery 5 years ago where they found out you were allergic to iodine. Like, none of that misplaced paperwork. Everything just blockchain, being able to access it. And if a server's down, I've had to deal with hospital servers going down on a professional and personal level. You don't have to worry about that because of the decentralization. That information is there and can be accessed. And again, it'll all be done by personal access codes. So instead of signing things, we're just going to have QR codes probably tattooed on the back of my hand before I pass. It's just like, here's my information. I feel like we're going to get to that. There's already people at that point that have the technology. Like, I forget her name, but she actually has like an NFC tag under her skin, so she can just wave her hand and it opens her doors at home. Wave her hand, her computer comes on, opens the car.
Grimes? It seems like something Grimes would do. I don't know.
Could very well be, but I forget the girl's name. She's an engineer. She's brilliant, and she's looking into this technology, and she's like, well, let me just test on myself. Battery life, she has to replace it like every 2 years, and the scar looks a little horrendous because she did it herself. But yeah, she's working on this
cyborg modification, and
I think that's how she advertises herself, like Cyborg Girl or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's interesting. So you're seeing this world where blockchain is just going to be pervasive, it sounds like.
Yes. It's one of those that it's still infancy, and I'm not talking about investing, but the actual technology itself, but just where we've come from the initial Bitcoin itself to a lot of these chains that are made very specifically for high transaction volumes, or that are made more for security, or they have a few like Chia Network, Filecoin, storage that are specifically data storage blockchains.
Mm-hmm.
People building these nodes for like peer-to-peer transactions and stuff like that. And it's going to become that the technology is going to be effective enough and cheap enough that it's just going to be the best way to go. And it's going to be adapted because it's the best option, not because it's a fad, not even because of decentralization. I think it's going to become optimized enough that it's going to just be a better solution than what we have now. Just like, email is a lot more effective than faxing was. Faxing was a lot more effective than snail mailing. Like, it's just the next step of evolution when it comes to technology.
Yeah, I think you're right, because everything moves towards cheaper and better when it comes to business. When it comes to human beings doing things, especially as we build systems for doing those things, we always want cheaper or better, right? Like if you, back in the day when we just had basically hammers, we'd have like stone and a piece of wood. And then eventually you would have someone who could actually make, like, say, a iron hammer, right? So now it was like a piece of iron, and but it was much better. It was more resilient. It could hit harder and things like that. But it was better. And the faster that we can do things, more we can make. More people now have hammers, and just eventually gets to factories and nanomachines and stuff like that. But faster and better. I completely agree with you there. And do you think that having faster, better computers and blockchains is going to help facilitate this play and earn future along with all this other stuff?
Big time. Like I said, just looking at it from the average person doesn't need to worry about server systems or storage or anything, but a lot of these big companies, they do. And it's just like, if you think of it as a physical storage, like you have grandma's dresser you need to put in there, you have grandpa's old china cabinet you need to put in there, and it keeps filling up and filling up, and eventually it is going to be full, and now you can't store anything, so you have to buy another storage unit. That's what people that lead technology, inventors, the media industry, art, video takes up a ton of space. I can only imagine, like, probably like Silicon Valley, they probably have like just all the studios and stuff happening on the West Coast. They probably have whole server farms of just video, nothing but video. But again, what if something happens? What if a natural disaster comes through, psh, wipes out all the footage that's only saved on those specific server systems? What if it wipes out the main server and the backup because they're stored next door, which I've seen happen?
I used to work in movies. Oh yeah, I used to handle dailies. It was like, it was like you got a copy and the director has a copy. You're both going home in different cars. What we just shot today cost us, like $10,000, $20,000. So you're
It,
both going in different cars.
exactly. And we're getting to the point, like I said, all these with the higher resolutions, we're needing more space. And while the technology is trying to create more space, like I think we're up to like 140 terabyte hard drives and stuff that exist out there. But there's only so much you can do. There's only so micro with enhanced space and all. It's still going to take up physical space. You're still going to have to spend resources to make all this technology and spend like that hard drive is like 4,000 just for that one hard drive. If they can switch over to blockchain decentralized technology and just have people running nodes. I have a computer in the other room that has, I think I have about 120 terabytes on it that is a Chia network farmer. It's hard drive farming. And it just stores information for person to person transfers. All of it's encrypted. I can't access it. I've tried. And it's a great way to set up. So there are, anything out there, there's 100 different copies stored across different systems throughout the world. And that concept versus, again, the server farms seems to make a lot more sense from a economical standpoint and also safety standpoint. Again, your primary server and your backup getting wiped up because you're renting from the building across the street. That does happen. Or, what if we had floods east and west coast because of climate issues, and all the servers that are below water level, boom, get wiped out. No one thought to store anything in Kansas. Plenty of space. You should have put a server farm in Kansas. But even then, you're building the same thing over and over and over again to be centralized. If every company does that, we'll run out of land space. We'll run out of materials to make the hard drives. Where again, decentralization, you can spread that out amongst multiple systems, multiple places. Like I said, a lot of the storage and security tokens out there, blockchains out there, have some great ideas in mind specifically for this to eliminate centralized storage. And like I said, once someone takes the chance to flip over to that, could be DMV, could be postal service, could be like UPS putting all their logistics on the blockchain. Once one of these companies decides to take a chance, I feel it's just gonna tumble down, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, that's a cheaper solution, and it works more within my needs. Let me jump on that." And it's like I said, it's gonna be once that main entity switches over, it's gonna be like 10-year period. Just everything's gonna uh, avalanche down to blockchain being an everyday life kind of thing. Uh, and I feel like that could happen any day. Like Amazon keeps messing with whether or not they're going to have their own specific crypto payment. They already have like an Amazon coin that they use for their gaming. You can get an Amazon coin; it's their premium token for their mobile and Amazon specific games. If they just put that as a actual crypto token, or if some major retailer like Disney decided we're going to have, well, they had a coin. The Dragon coin was awesome. Disney made a coin back in like 2017. Awesome transaction speed. It had a cute little dragon as a mascot. It was the DRGN Dragon coin, and they sold it to Intel. And now Intel open sourced that, and it's an amazing blockchain. I think that was actually one of the chains that was using for the COVID vaccination papers was the Dragon token. That's probably why it's in my head. But if a major retailer, Amazon, Disney, Walmart, someone major just decides to jump on for transaction and or logistics purposes, it's going to become mainstream. the stigma behind blockchain will be eliminated once you see it's being used. Again, people don't like what's different. People don't like change. But as soon as everyone's doing it, it's like, oh yeah, blockchain. I've been doing that for years. Sure, whatever, Bob.
Right. Well, we might be kind of close to this FTX. You think we're a little too close to the whole FTX collapse to have, the stigma around that disappear? I mean, I was talking to my parents, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay after the whole FTX collapse? They're like, well, it's a legitimate question to ask because it's all over the news.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's where they get their information is they watch, CNN, Fox News, like whatever's in front of them, they'll watch the news channel. But yeah, they were like, are you okay? Like, it's all over the news. It's all they talk about is, the FTX thing. And I'm like, it's definitely not going to help with crypto adoption, right?
It's one of those things. It was a huge blow to crypto in general. But when you actually look at the amount, like, if you actually look into financing and banks that shut down, that withhold people's money, like, it's not newsworthy because it's federally governed money. The crypto is newsworthy because, crypto's evil. No, take this dollar bill and be happy. There's a lot that happens in the financial industry that is messed up that we don't hear about because, again, it's not mainstream news media.
Mm-hmm.
And the FTX was horrible, but it's really not that big when you compare it to things that happen outside of crypto, of embezzlement and money theft and companies screwing over the consumers. Like, I wouldn't even put it as big as like Enron or something like that. And again, that only made news because they were doing something different, and then it all crumbled down. FTX was only news when it crumbled. It wasn't news when they were in exchange, not outside the crypto community itself, but it's news because it's negative, because something bad happened. And really, I'm surprised it did not. Like, we had the market falling down before FTX happened. When FTX happened, I did not really see that much change in the market itself. A few coins here and there, but I was expecting everything to fall half again. Like, we had already collapsed half.
Well, I think a lot of things did come down almost 50%. Well, maybe not everything, but a lot of things. Bitcoin didn't. Bitcoin went down, I think, maybe like 15% or something like that. But a lot of things got crushed, like Wax got crushed, Gala got crushed, and obviously I have some Gala nodes, but a lot of things got crushed, almost 50%. Especially Solana. Solana got its face kicked in, really. It's like, oh, Solana, so sorry, Solana.
Yeah, Solana got hit pretty badly. But I said I feel
almost down like 80% or something.
Because I mean, the FTX thing, that was just like that was November. Yeah, like if you look at Wax started crashing. Wax crashed like 2 weeks before FTX actually like hit mainstream. So maybe behind the scenes, maybe when all the things
well, I think that might have had an impact. And we started to see things kind of sliding backwards for like a week, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why is everything going down? Like, I don't understand. And then a couple of days later, then the FTX thing came out. But I think it was kind of like,
yeah, that would make. By the time we heard about it, everything had crashed.
Yeah, I mean, there were rumors of FTX becoming insolvent even before the news hit, right? There are people like, it's like there are people having trouble transferring things out. Is this supposed to be happening?
But once the actual news hit is what I'm seeing. Like, we didn't see, like, we had seen markets fall beforehand. So maybe people on the inside that were really monitoring transactions and all, they got out of it. Or maybe it was even, those people clearing out coins from FTX. That's so much happening. I haven't even wrapped my brain around it. I wasn't in FTX, thankfully. My best friend got wrecked, but I was not in it, so I haven't looked too much into it past the prime headlines. But after the news hit is when I'm thinking, like, we had already crashed down a little bit. Once the news hit, I was thinking there was going to be panic, but we haven't really seen that. We've actually seen a little bit of gains, but it's been steady. You'd think as soon as mainstream started talking about FTX crashing, everything else would crash. So we had a market fluctuation while it was going on, but once the news started talking about it, it didn't seem anyone overly cared. Like I said, Wax and Gala crashed like a week or two before it happened, which might have been impacted by that. But when the actual news hit, I didn't really see much reaction
In the markets, you mean?
in the markets itself.
Hmm.
Uh, people are still trading, they're still investing, they're still playing their games. Like I thought FTX, like I said, just the news of it hitting should have created panic.
Hmm.
And I'm just not seeing that, which surprised me. Like everyone's like, "Oh, I just lost my life savings. Does anyone know a good exchange?" Like that's been everyone's response in my communities. It's like, "Oh, that sucks. Guess I'll go look over here." And they're still in crypto, and they're just like, "I don't know if that was almost an expectation because you're in crypto, something bad's going to happen." If we've desensitized
Right. I
ourselves.
mean, I don't. It seems a little happy-go-lucky to me. Just like, oh, just lost the life savings. Just got this week's paycheck. All right, $100 in a Bitcoin. Here we go. It's like, oh well, it happens.
Yeah, that's been the
Well,
mentality, which has cracked me up. You think like, "Oh, I'm done with crypto. It's a scam," which we get that every time like Bitcoin fell down 1%. It was like, "Crypto's a
mm,
scam. I'm never doing this again." $2 billion disappear, and it's like, well, that was a bad Monday.
well, like if we say it's a matter of growth, like um, let's say that you always have these growth movements, right? Um, the dot com was a big one. There's a crash, but then eventually, the Amazon, others major companies. If you were holding money in, Apple, like in, 1995, you would have seen a big rise between
Yeah,
then and like 2005, especially after the iPhone hit. Same thing. So we see these cycles, right? Cycles hit with dot coms, with technology. It's been hitting with electric vehicles for a while. So I mean, is like crypto the only game in town really when it comes to this next cycle? Because there are other things as well, like medical technology,
yeah,
all kinds of other things. I mean, I feel like there's maybe five different things. AI. What's her name? Kathy Woods talks about them all the time. She's like five big, basically technologies that are cycling in: AI, electric vehicles and energy and blockchain and medicine, being these five things. So is crypto like really the only big game in town? Is it the only one thing that you care about really? Is it, is what's your take there on like if people do want to invest, what's your preference? I think your preference probably is more important than, it doesn't seem like you really have you think there's something everybody else should be doing.
it comes down to again, my philosophy is there's money to make everywhere. If you are passionate about something, you're going to be more motivated to stick with it. That's why a lot of what I do, I make money playing video games. I love video games, always have. So that became an income for me. If someone out there is really into medical, like medical research and all, like if you just when again COVID hit, major worldwide catastrophe. If you had just put $10 into every company researching biocures or something when the news of COVID first hit, you just put a
Mhm.
few bucks into all of them. There wasn't a lot on the floor to come out with the first vaccine. There's maybe like a dozen companies. If you just put a few bucks into each one, you would have made a nice profit when Pfizer rose up and Johnson & Johnson rose up. If you're interested in the field, you're going to be more apt to know what's happening with the news. Just like with crypto, like I follow Gala Games. So when they have a new release coming out, it's like I'll buy some tokens. New release happens, I sell the tokens, and then I usually short it because that's the thing. That's every game, even on Steam. It's like the first week we have 1 million players. Second week, 10,000 because we all got ADHD. It's not even about not liking the game. We just so many people just need something new every single day to try, or they beat the whole game in like 5 hours and they're like, I never want to play again. So knowing that mentality of the gamer, I invest in my coins the same way. So if Wax has a big drop happening, like, if any of the top atomic hub, any of the top 10 is doing like a major drop that week, I'm going to buy some Wax. The other day, Alien Worlds had a new missions coming out or something. I bought into that and they spiked up. I sold. You know, that's how I follow the markets. Same with
Mhm.
stocks. I used to, sadly, not during the whole Reddit thing, but I used to invest in GameStop. I invested in Microsoft. I invested in a few really smaller companies like that just made control Mad Cats and a few others like technology involved around gaming because it was industries I knew. So at the same time, I could be a part of it. I'm a shareholder. I'm a stockholder. If I went to do the meetings or something, I could get dressed up and go to a fancy meeting in New York. Um, but I can actually be a part of the industry that I'm interested in, and hopefully that will give me some kind of inside edge to making money when it comes to investing. So same thing. If you're into solar power, there is solar powered stocks out there. There's tons of companies up in Canada that are just creating solar farms, and you can buy shares in them, and you get a dividends back based on how much electricity they're selling. If you're into legal medical drugs being grown and partaked in, tons of those farms that you can invest in, Canada and now US side. And again, if you're passionate about it, you're going to stay more on top of it and hopefully have some fun learning. Even if you don't make a ton of money, even if you lose a few bucks, you're paying for an education about an industry you love. And that's kind of how I look at investing. I feel a lot of my investment profits have just been dumb luck and pattern recognition. I can notice when something's off in the numbers. Past that, yeah, just dumb luck. I just get in at the right time. But again, I invest in stuff that I'm passionate about. So, worst case, okay, I've lost $100 on this stock, but I learned what happened behind the scenes if this controller company merged with this gaming company and they fired the CEO. Now, I get kind of behind the scenes look. So it's almost
Mhm.
like like a VIP ticket.
Yeah, so it sounds like a couple of things there, which was uh, I'm trying to think of the exact word they used, which was, uh, you're actually interested in this stuff. You're actually interested
Yeah,
in
passionate.
the things, passionate about the things you're creating, and I mean, you're also analyzing. You're essentially, learning what to do, and that's where you're finding those opportunities inside of the learning and using, like you said, pattern recognition. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right, for people. And sometimes I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot of things break pattern. Like, oh, I thought there was a pattern here, and then the pattern gets broken. Like, maybe I don't know anything. Maybe, but I think you're right. I actually used to do that too in the early days of wax. I haven't been involved in crypto very long, but I was in wax, and I was like, oh, well, there's going to be a big sell for farmers world. I think I'll go buy a lot of wax right before the drop happens, and then sell it all, while the drop is happening. And then I started to see these patterns pop up, um, and uh, and so, but then of course crypto starts to go down, and then I get really scared. I'm like, maybe I'm just not going to touch anything. It's just easier just to do the easy thing, right? Which is probably what most people are doing. They just want to like put their money somewhere, set it and forget it, and just be like, this is the winner. I just want to leave it there, let it win, let my winner ride, and then they watch it keep going down, then they freak out. But I think, yeah, some of it is that dumb luck though, right? Some of it's just like you lucked into something. And But I think, probably more than ever, I think people need to be more vigilant. What do you think? Do you think, and the way that the market is going, because there's so many grifts out there. There are like so many. I would say for every one legitimate project, there's like 99 or maybe even like 10x that, like 1,000 illegitimate projects. For like every Ethereum, you have like 1,000 crap Ethereum. You know what I mean?
And those numbers might be right, but like scamming is nothing new. Like I've been being involved in computers. I've been involved with IT work. I did like cybersecurity and stuff like that. Well, I mentioned before, military server farms and all. I was making sure their systems were, they could not be hacked. I was one of those guys back in the day, and I also did audits on banks and financial systems right around the time that 9/11 happened. So this was when the Patriot Act came out, and I read that whole thing because I needed to know all the Western Union systems had to have this type of security. They had to have they have a list that every time someone sends a bill pay, it sends that name through a list to check against like wanted terrorists and stuff like that. And it was making sure all these systems were set up correctly to not get scammed. And all these places were still getting scammed every single day. People are still getting these checks in the mail, this thing of we need you to help process funds for your state because we don't have a license, so cash this check for $5,000 at your local bank, pull out 4,200 and mail it to this person. People are doing that every day. Like, that is such an obvious scam. The Prince of Nigeria is not emailing you because you are his long lost beneficiary. Like, none of this is happening, and people still fall for the most basic scams. Snake oil salesmen, like, people are still falling for this. This is just new technology. That's all it is. You're seeing what feels like a lot more happening because the technology is faster, but it's just condensing, like, 20 years of emailing scams into 2 years of crypto. When you break down the numbers of how fast the technology is, it's really not that bad. People do need to protect themselves, and a lot of it comes from learning what you're doing. People get on the blockchain and don't realize you press the wrong button, you lose everything. Just like if you put the wrong credit card on the wrong website, if you see an ad on TikTok for the fancy new Squishmallow and you put your credit card into TikTok, your credit card's gone. I'm sorry, it's gone. You saw it on TikTok, you should know better. Same thing with blockchain. If someone just messages you like out of nowhere and says like, "Hey, you need to click here. It's awesome, and you'll get something free," and you click
Free
there.
Baron, get a free Royal Baron. They're like, great. It's like, no. Like,
No,
don't
no
click
one
that
is going
link.
out of their way
Yeah.
to give you anything anywhere in the world. Blockchain, email, snail mail, the guy down the street, like, no one is going out of their way. You have a better chance of hitting Powerball, okay? No one is going out of their way to give you anything. If you didn't sign up for a contest, don't click that you've won a contest. If you did sign up for a contest, no one is DMing you directly. Like, every Discord, has they'll tag you and then they'll maybe DM you from that account. I know a lot to be safer. It's like, DM us first so you can verify that we are indeed who we say we are. We will never
We
DM
find
first.
people who actually like try to snipe things out. They're like, oh, this person said they're going to message somebody else and send them something. So they try to message that person first, pretending to be the other person. Like we see, or targeting exactly what they're saying. And
Yep.
they find it's a social engineering thing, right? They try to find your weakness, and that's very dangerous. So some of these scams get really sophisticated that way.
Oh yeah, they can, and I mean, there's short cons and long cons. And again, blockchain's just making it move faster. That's why we're hearing so much about it, is because they are happening, probably like every minute on one blockchain, one Discord channel. Every minute you have some kind of scam happening. When it was email, was every 10 minutes. And plus, you probably weren't talking to that person in a chat at the time to even hear about it. There's probably tons of email scams that no one's even heard about. People might be too embarrassed. Same thing on blockchain. We probably only, heard about a third of the ones that happen because people are like, I clicked the wrong thing. I'm an idiot. I'm just going to quit the computer altogether. We've probably had that a few times and not even realize.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something to tell people when they especially start getting involved in, what we try to talk about a lot, which is, make sure that you protect yourself, that, just assume that there are lots of people out there who want to scam you and take everything that you own. Just assume that there's someone listening right now who wants to do that to you. And just behave accordingly, right? Don't
Yep.
over trust, especially when it comes to, wallet transactions and things like that. I have an interesting question that has to do with, because you talked a lot about like server redundancies and stuff like that, and working with blockchain. And so right now there's really not like a great obfuscation layer for blockchain. Like if I wanted to say write a journal, very personal journal, right? Like my innermost sensitive thoughts I don't want to share with anybody. And I write that down and I put it onto the blockchain. Like today, Robert dealt with existential crisis at 2 a.m. or something. And it involved
I want that NFT.
whatever they go. but like, let's say I don't want to share this with anybody, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a service that, right now there's really no way to, like, say, upload that to a blockchain server anywhere and actually have a secure layer of authentication, or essentially, it can't be private. Um, and so, I mean, last time I checked, like a year or two ago, this was the case. There was really no private, essentially, blockchain technology. I mean, you could have kind of like a verification, something or other, that would have
Yeah.
you verify on that blockchain. But the data itself, like, let's say that journal would have to live somewhere. It either has to live on my computer, has to live in a cloud somewhere. And clouds are not secure, but at least they're not on a blockchain, which is pretty much all blockchains right now are completely transparent. If it's on a blockchain, an IPFS or something, like, anybody can go see it. So do you think there's going to be a future where we actually have a blockchain where information can be departmentalized in different places? Because I kind of don't see that. I really don't see us having decentralized servers and essentially decentralized information like that, like being able to have my journal in several places on a blockchain, decentralized and secure. I kind of don't see that. What's your take on it?
I mean, if we just like if you contacted your bank or something, the standard nowadays is like 128-bit encryption. That unless you have that initial key going out from your computer, from your sign-in, you're not able to access any of the information. So, I mean, whether it's a central or decentralized server, if you lose your key, they're going to access your information. But if they actually, you can do base levels of cryptography on any blockchain. It is available through smart contracts that you can encrypt whatever you want. People just really don't utilize it. So you could do your journal and release it to the blockchain. People would see the transaction hash. They would see data has been collated and moved along and stored. But unless they have the specific key to access it, no one would be able to see it. And when it comes to stuff like 128-bit encryption, it's nothing's impossible to decrypt, but like you'd need multiple supercomputers running 50 years at this point just to reverse a 128-bit encryption. Unless you have that original key, that original seed to go from, you can't crack the code. So if that's implemented just like it is in Web 2, implement that into Web 3, you can secure any technology you want or any information that you want.
But I guess my problem is that the 128-bit encryption, like, say, for a wallet, is, I guess I don't necessarily understand how that works. Maybe it's kind of beyond this conversation, but uh, I guess I can understand the idea of a key. With the massive server, they have uh, essentially they have their firewalls and stuff. So they have security so that people can't get in easily. And then, but with the blockchain, you think there is a way that I can take, like, this document, have it be encrypted through this 128-bit encryption, and have that key basically encode it. So if anybody were to look at that information on the blockchain, they would basically just see a bunch of garbage or whatever it is, just a bunch of data without the key that I have in order to reinterpret that data and bring it back to me.
Correct. The key you have is a cipher. So even on Web 2, like if I manage my way onto the local banking site, if I got on a banking server and downloaded like their database, if I don't have a specific cipher for each one of those accounts, because all those accounts are individually encrypted, I would not be able to access it. Even bank employees, they have to put in their own personal code, log in to get access to their cipher to decrypt any banking information when they're talking to someone. Same thing when you log in via your web browser. When you type in your passcode, that's authorizing the cipher to be used, and that's how it unencrypts it. As soon as you log out, that information's gone. It's cleared from your cache. Like without that cipher, none of the information is going to be viewable. Trying to reverse engineer that is like hacker's nightmare right there. And that was before 128-bit. I think they're 256-bit at this point. I don't even know. I haven't kept up with that technology as much. I just know it's too complex for my brain. But even technology like 10, 15-year-old ciphers are still almost impossible to crack unless, like I said, you got supercomputers working nonstop on single codes
Mhm.
to access
Which
just
we
one
might.
account.
We have AI accelerating here, quantum computers. Like God knows what. Maybe all our cryptos aren't safe. I don't know. Um,
But so
uh,
far, like all with the actual wallets and the transactions and how everything processes, I'd say it's more secure than half the financial sites that I deal with already.
okay,
So,
interesting.
like I haven't messed lately, but I remember back in the days going into some servers I wasn't supposed to, and the information was very easy to get, but the actual decrypting it, a whole other thing. The most standard way to like decrypt password files, that you a hacker doesn't download like all these security breaches and stuff. They don't just download a file, click a button, and it tells you the password. It actually has a list of passwords, standard ones, ABC123, stuff like that, or it has a list of different words, and it just tries to guess on like Monkey Pirate One. It'll create that password, it'll encrypt it, and then see if the encrypted data matches what's on the account file. If it does, that's how they know it's the password. But to decrypt it, like I said, as far as I know, currently impossible. So that's how password breakers work. Is they guess your password and they just try 5 million variations of passwords until they guess your password, and then the end data on the encrypted side equals the same. That's how they know it's your password. That's why
Mhm.
all the sites are like, you need a capital letter, you need a number. They've all switched over to that because, um, yeah, ABC123 on a again, I was on a server I shouldn't have been at. It was like the local internet provider, and I might have got on the server, might have downloaded something, might have ran one of these password crackers, in theory, when I was, 13, and found out that at least 8 people within my zip code used the password ABC123.
Wow. How many people have their password as password?
Out of the list, this was a list of about 8,000 users. It was just a local internet provider, and password was less than that. It was like 4 people. ABC123 was the winner with like 7, and that's how I learned about cryptography in general and encoding. Was this information, and getting a little bit of trouble for that in theory.
Mm. Well, we won't necessarily have to go there.
Yeah.
I'm curious because we've talked a lot about being about creating opportunities, and it sounded like from your mom you kind of got this like this creative work ethic, wanting to stay busy. But where did the opportunity come from? Like where did you get this idea that like when you start to look at the world and the fish tanks and what everybody's doing, that like, oh, there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. Like where did you get this ability to like manifest these opportunities?
Real life consumer testing. Um, Probably one of the funniest ones. I was at Lowe's. I worked for Lowe's. I did a lot of audits. This was contractual work. You like in the next 2 weeks show up and make sure all the signs are up or make sure all the lumber is stored safely. It was kind of like a secret shopping type thing. So you do all this auditing, not tell them you were there, and then you find the manager and cuss them out because things were wrong. And then you come back 2 weeks later to see if they fixed them. It was a great job. Uh, but when I was doing it one day, I started talking to this guy. Uh, I was working the decking department, and right across from that was the ring doorbell camera things.
Right.
And the guy's like, "You know anything about these?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know a little about them." And we were talking, and he's like, "What I need is I need one by my back door. I need one at my barn. I want one like anytime someone comes up the driveway, I want to be able to see them." I'm like, I just looked at the prices, like, okay, that costs that, that costs that. I'm like, you could probably get all the equipment and have someone set that up for like, I don't know, 12,000 bucks. And he's like, really? That's all? I'm like, there might be a few additional costs in there. So figure about 12,000 to 15,000. And he's like, that sounds good. You know anyone? It's like, I could probably do it. I'll be free in 2 weeks. He's like, okay, that's awesome. Here's my information. I went home that night and started learning how to install security cameras. I knew the base technology. I knew what the hardware cost, did simple math, And then it's like, okay, setting one of these up, even a dummy could do that in an hour. So let's think I'm a dummy. It's going to take me an hour to install each one and then link them together. That'll probably take some time. And then I just like took all those hours, all that money, added 500% to that and threw out the price. And this has backfired more times than you would imagine. This is how I actually got to working the pool filtration. Like I said, I learned from doing the fish tanks, but the actual reason I started working there is the community manager I was just talking about, homeowners association, rent, Easter event, something like that. And they're like, we need someone to handle the pools. It's like, well, they don't seem too tough. How much you paying to have someone manage those? Oh, we're paying this much. I'm like, I could probably figure it out. And that's been a lot of my jobs is throw prices out there. If someone agrees to it, it's like, okay, for that price, I'll learn how to do it. And yeah, that's how I learned how to install security cameras, the pool filtration, which led to the sewer maintenance, and even gaming and all. Like I said, when I say make money out of spite, I've gotten into a lot of these mobile games that people are like, "Oh, it's play to win. You can't possibly win unless you actually pay money." So I'll get into these and do a complete free account, and I'll do it under a secondary email address and build up till I'm in like the top 10 and put no money whatsoever and then sell off the account. The Genshu Impact, Genshi Impact.
Mention?
Yeah, yeah, Genshin. There we go. Like that game, people are just rolling, creating new accounts and rolling for those 5-star cards, and then reselling the accounts for like $500,000 a pop.
Hmm.
And that was crazy at the time. I actually thought it was blockchain, the way people were making money and trading accounts, and it wasn't. I'm like, if it was, it would be a lot easier. But little things like that is scarcity. Scarcity equals value. And find something that's scarce, be it a physical item, skill set, resource, and is there a way you can supply any of these three? If so, figure out the worth, throw some prices out there. Like
The scarcity.
and scarcity of resource and skill set. So when
Scarcity,
you
resource, and skill set. Right.
yeah, because skill set, like there could be scarcity of people doing pool filtration. There could be a scarcity because people are lacking the skill set. Maybe the skill set's not worth something. Maybe the skill set doesn't include certain things, or people are not looking at that crossover. Again, I learned how to do pool filtration from fish tank rotation. It's just bigger. That's it. From the same mentality, I made a blueprint for irrigation. When I move and do a greenhouse, I'm going to have an automated irrigation system set up of just PVC piping, sprinklers, and timers, which I learned all that from dealing with the pool filtration system. So I could technically set up irrigation systems. I haven't gotten paid to do that. No one's been willing to pay me to do that. But in theory, I could throw some prices out like, hey, you have a farm, I can set up irrigation for you. Just check the price of hoses, pipe, and double estimate what I think the time will cost. And then again, 300, 500% on top of that throughout the prices. And then see if they flinch. That's the big thing. That goes back to sales itself. But if you throw out a number like, oh yeah, I can do that for $50,000, if their immediate reaction is, then no, they're not paying $50,000. But if you thought I could probably do that for $50,000, they're like, so only $50,000? It's like maybe more.
Yeah, and 12,000 for the work they were talking about. I'm like, that's crazy. But you said it's like 500%, right, of what he was thinking, and or what you were thinking would be. And he was like, okay, that sounds great. 2 weeks is great.
It's skill set in his mind. One, he doesn't know anything about what it's actually going to take. He doesn't want to learn. He already sees that the cameras are running like 100, 200 a pop. I was thinking like I could buy in bulk and get them cheaper, which I did. But even going full retail and then figuring, like I said, twice as much time to install them all. And myself, I usually never estimate myself under $40 an hour. That's bare minimum. And then when it comes to specialty skills, especially technology, then it's like, yeah, $100 an hour minimum. Marketing and business advice, I'm $250 minimum, 2 hours in advance. Like
Mhm.
I figured out like what base systems are, not as much for my worth personally, but how much it would annoy me to do the work. How stressful is this going to make me? Like, I'm going to have to stop playing video games and go install a security system. For that, I need at least, $80 an hour. And that's another thing. I look at work, I'm not like, this is earning me $40 an hour. This is earning me $80 an hour. This is taking away 4 hours of my gaming. So is it worth losing 4 hours of gaming to have, the next 2 weeks off because I made enough money? Look at it as trading time for time, trading work for hobby versus, again, that just accumulating money. Yes, eventually you become Scrooge McDuck and you can dive into your gold vault. But, if you're just accumulating money for the sake of it, I've not seen that end well for anyone. It's usually a lot of stress, and the return on investment is, at least from my personal experience, not as much as setting specific goals.
Yeah, so you don't want to die Scrooge McDuck. You'll be, look at all the money I made, and now I get to swim in it.
Uh,
And
Amusingly, I do collect. It's hanging back there, but Scrooge McDuck is one of the things. Having the toy store and being involved, like I got like watchdogs back here. I got gnomes. I got little money tree from a craft festival. Peter Venkman new Ghostbusters. Like I have my nerdy stuff, but actual collection wise, I decided very early I'm not going to collect much because otherwise I'm going to overwhelm myself. I'm going to be dipping into my own stock. You never dip into your own stock. So collection wise, I collect Scrooge McDuck, Pinky and the Brain, and Pac-Man. And that's pretty much it. I have a few unique gaming
is that the
features.
closest you're ever going to be to Scrooge McDuck? Is collecting Scrooge McDuck?
That Scrooge McDuck stuff is expensive. He's considered the OG. There's actually a Scrooge McDuck platinum NFT. It's just a little spinning NFT that I'm eyeballing. But yeah, I got like a Scrooge McDuck Bendum, and the thing runs like $200 in package. It's crazy. I got like some old Pac-Man ravioli. I got randomest Pac-Man band-aids. Just little stuff like this that amuses me. Scrooge McDuck's probably the most expensive though. Like he is highly sought after, and again, scarcity. There's not a lot of it because even with the re-release of DuckTales, which is amazing, they still didn't go full on with the toys. So finding Scrooge McDuck stuff is hard. And again, he is kind of an icon of that like OG rich for the sake of being rich. And then there's some of the episodes where he's literally lost all of his money. Someone conned him out of it, stole his money or whatever. And he's been like, man, I lost all my money. And he finds like one gold coin on the ground. And he's like, I can get it back. And like 10 minutes later, he's earned all of his money back off of that one coin, investing and hustling. And it's that mentality. He's like, crap, I lost it all. I'll get it back. It's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, accumulating money is part of the game. For me, enjoying myself. Most importantly, finding time to enjoy yourself. Biggest thing I recommend to people, time management. The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. It is, I get so hyped listening to the audiobook, I can't put it on while I'm going to bed because it just, even though I've heard it like 10 times, it gets me so excited. And he goes through his own personal journey of working 9 to 5 and being burnt out and then starting his own side company and working that like 70 hours a week until he has a complete mental breakdown and then realizes he doesn't have to put in all these hours. He doesn't need to punch the time clock. He needs to optimize what he's doing, figure out the correct prices, delegate responsibilities by outsourcing, and he's able to make more profits working 4 hours a week than he was 70 hours a week. And he's able to do stuff he enjoys. And then he goes into like, he became a kickboxing champion in China. He got the Guinness World Records for most amount of tango spins in a minute. He just picked these like random goals and just started doing them. So he holds like 4 or 5 records now, world records for just random stuff because he's like, I can do that. And he had the time to do so. And his podcast is probably like the only one that I even listened to. He just did an interview with Neil Gaiman, so I'm really excited.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just listened to it the other day. His one with Jason Calacanis. That one was called Relentless, and he was giving crap for making a book called The 4 Hour Work Week, because he likes to encourage founders basically work until the business works. But I was listening to him, yeah, just like 2 days ago. So it was a great podcast. But I'll have to listen to one of the Neil Gaimans. I love Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, I just saw it this morning. He's like, I've been waiting 20 years to do this interview. I'm like, oh, who's this Neil Gaiman?
I've been waiting 20 years to listen to that interview. I love Neil Gaiman interviews. It's such a creative mind, really, just like nothing else,
Yeah, and his like 4 Hour Work Week, I have like paper copy, audio. The audio book is amazing. The guy that does it sounds like Dan Aykroyd in like his Blues Brothers persona, so Chicago. And the entire audiobook says Timothy's knowledge coming from Dan Aykroyd. Cracks me up. But I got to speak to him like he did just a random like online pop-up. I got to just talk to him via Zoom for like 10 minutes, and like just I've always seen him very down to earth. Timothy Ferriss just very down to earth. Always wanted to help people, and that same mentality is like when I talk about finding something that you want to do, find that goal, that vacation goal or that hobby goal or the new computer. Or for me right now, it's getting that 20-acre farm. Like that's my goal. It's not accumulating money. It's working to achieve that goal. You're breaking it down, because just working to accumulate money, it's like, okay, you got the money. Now what? You need that next step.
Yeah, I think that's really what differentiates, people. There are people who have clear goals and people who don't have clear goals. And the people who have clear goals or ambitions, they have to work in structure to working towards those. And people don't have clear goals, well, then maybe just they don't have clear goals. What do you think about that? Is it, I mean, if someone doesn't have clear goals and they're just getting through life day to day, does that make sense? Because I feel like, trying to pigeonhole those people into like forcing them, like, you have to have clear goals and know what you want out of your life. And at the end of your life, it looks like this. I think for some people, I don't know, maybe it just might not be for them. What do you think?
You got to look at things like you're 5 years old and trying to decide if you want to be a fireman or an attorney. Like you need to approach it with like that type of mentality. So many people, what's that saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's that people do not try because they assume failure. Oh, I can, like, if I'm going around every day like, man, I could never afford a farm. I'm not going to be able to get the money. I'm going to be stuck here forever. If I had that mentality every day, I'm self-sabotaging myself. Law of attraction, self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if you're constantly doubting yourself, the world is too. I've seen people operate on pure confidence. I mean, look at Elon Musk. He knows a thing or two, but really he's just confidence and going forward no matter what. And love or hate him, he makes things happen. And a lot of that, I think, it's pure confidence. You can tell him to his face, you don't know nothing. He's just gonna smile and be like, nah, I know things.
So I'm still trying to figure out what you mean by, look at it at like, as a 5-year-old trying to figure out if you want to be a fireman or a policeman, which is like, maybe, are you trying to say like, maybe you don't know anything about any of that yet? And you're just like, you think you know what you want, but you don't actually know what it's going to take to get there? Or what do you mean?
Kind of. It's look at things before everyone told you couldn't do it. Before you looked at the math and went like, man, how can I afford this? How can I afford a home and food and all this? Like a big thing as of late has been like minimum wage. My goal has always been to lead a minimum wage life. So even if I got stuck with a job I didn't want, I could still afford it. I mean, my lifestyle, and this includes like steak twice a week, more energy drinks than I probably should be drinking, and buying video games every month. And I live like under 11,000 a year, which is like minimum wage for my area. And it's just a matter of picking what's important. Like, I don't need the fanciest car. I don't need the fanciest shoes or clothes or whatever. I got t-shirts I got from an event, hat I made myself. I think that was $9.
Right,
But
right.
I don't, I do get out of the house. I go to events, but I do like one event a month. I see people that are going out eating like $50 entrees 3 times a week. And then the following week, they're like, I can't pay rent because I don't make enough money. It's like, no, you chose what was important to you. And I fully support, figure out what your joy is worth and pay it. But you do have to balance that out with responsibilities. So when I say look at things like a 5-year-old child, before responsibilities hit you, before you knew what rent was, before taxes was even relevant to you, what would you do if you eliminated that thing? If you want the lottery, what would you do with your life? Okay, take that and maybe compartmentalize different parts of that. Like people say, I want to travel the world. Okay, well, how about you travel to Ohio first? That's 3 states away.
Yeah.
Break it down, do that, and then like you'll get that road trip, you'll get that wanderlust out of your system, and like, okay, that was fun. I want to do something now. I want to go from coast to coast, and let's see how much money that's going to cost with gas and taking time off work. Find out what you want to do, and then use that as motivation, whether it's working your regular job, side hustle, pursuing a whole new crazy industry. Like if you're not happy with where you are and what you're achieving, fix it. There is always opportunity out there. I mean, there's even people that just do a Kickstarter. It's like, I've never traveled the world. I want to travel the world. And people fund them. I've done that. It's like, you're so passionate about going to France. Here's $10. You're so passionate about opening up a video game company. Here's 12,000.
Yeah, I mean, you have such great answers. I think those are really great insights that you have to, to just being happy and it sounds like kind of saying like take some baby steps if you have really big ambitions, right? Like if your ambition is to travel the world, maybe start with Ohio, and I think that helps a lot of people who like, we were talking about early. I'm one of those people with big ambitions, so I have this happen to me all the time where like I have X vision and then on the way to trying to get to X vision, I get to like A, B, or C, or it's just like wasn't quite there yet. So I'm really familiar with this kind of trajectory, right? Of like having the eye in the big prize. So I'm kind of familiar with that particular. But I think those are great insights, and like if you're kind of hitting these smaller goals in the effort of hitting bigger goals, it's not quite as crushing as not being able to actually get to that big goal. You're kind of like on your
Exactly.
way there. And at least you're living life. At the end of the day, you're gonna fall asleep and hopefully you'll wake up again. And you never know if that's gonna be the case, right? Like, life is kind of has its own plans all the time. But I think those are really great insights you've shared. So I'm interested in talking about some of your other interests. I know you said you actually had a toy store, a physical toy store, and you were having all these toys brought in. And how long did you have that business, like that physical business?
The physical business was not very long. I'd say probably 2 years. I was actually at a local flea market selling martial art equipment. A friend of mine, he was had a gym and he was trying to just strum up business. So I was selling like foam nunchucks for like $10 and giving out business cards. So I just was doing that every weekend at the flea market, drum up business for him. I saw these kids walking by with some trading cards, and it was Magic the Gathering. I'm like, hey, those look familiar. I think a friend of mine plays that. Tell me about them. And they're like, oh yeah, we got this, we got this. I paid $20 for this one. I'm like, hold on, you paid $20 for a piece of cardboard? Like, yeah, but it has this little symbol on it, and I can do this. It's like, yeah, but you paid $20 for a piece of cardboard. Come see me next week. I went on eBay and I just bought a pack of like 100 random cards. And the following week they came by and I'm just like, I don't know what they're worth. You tell me. And again, these kids are like, oh yeah, this one's worth $2. This one's worth $5. I'm like, so what's everything in your hand worth? Oh, this is probably like $25 worth of cards. I'm like, give me $10, man. And he was thrilled. I paid for the entire lot. And it just went downhill from there. So I started getting the Magic the Gathering cards, the Pokemon cards, Whiz Kid, Mage Knights, Marvel Clicks. All that was hitting around that time, and got into like board games, Hero Quest. There's some board games out there that sell for like $20,000, $30,000, and there was actually a pretty popular board game company by me that made very obscure and politically incorrect games. One was called "Why Work for a Living When You Can Play the Welfare Game," and it was the game of life, but instead of achieving like college degrees and all, you would see how many babies you could have, so you could collect welfare checks by the time you got to the end of the board. They also had another one, Capital Punishment. You raced your cellmates to the death chair. So very taboo kind of games, and because of that, very short circulation. I find them all the time at Goodwill for like $5-10. They resell for like 100-200 bucks. So I started seeing like there was a huge gap between, and again, the internet wasn't a huge thing. Now you got like TCG World, you can get any card you want at the lowest price. But back then it was hitting local flea markets and game stores, which there weren't a lot of. So I could buy, cards for pennies and sell them for dollars, even completely random, having no clue what any of it was.
Mhm.
So it just kind of snowballed from there. I got up with the local comic store at the got up with a comic guy, and we ended up at the local mall. So he did all the comics. I became a Yu-Gi-Oh judge, a Magic the Gathering judge, did competitions, and that ended up closing up because of he had some personal issues. So we closed that store. I opened up a brick and mortar store, but it was middle of nowhere. So past people would show up and just hang out all day. They weren't making me money though. They'd come in and hang out. They weren't buying stuff.
Mhm.
Occasionally they'd bring me stuff to trade and I'd get more inventory, but they weren't actually buying stuff. I would just sit there all day listing stuff on eBay. Just take a picture, list, take a picture, list. And it ended up being that I was paying, $2,000 to keep the lights on every month, but 95% of my sales were coming online. So at that point, I just closed up shop, made NRFB Toy Store the eBay store. And I think up until I stopped selling on there, I have like 28,000 positive feedback, power seller. Like I was one of the, in the genre of toys and trading cards. Toys, I was in top 10, trading cards, top 20 for a few years there before eBay became a big thing. Like now, you can go on there and pay with credit card. You don't even need an account or anything. But when eBay was still small, before they had like stock options, um, before they were on the Nasdaq, it was a lot of people were coming in and not a lot of people were selling. So it was just as long as you provided, you got hand over fist money to the point that I'd go to Walmart and I'd go through the DVD bin and buy all those bargain $1 DVDs. I was selling for $15 a pop online just because Walmart doesn't know how to distribute to their stores properly. And like I said, just tumbled from there and got to the point that I was so focused on toys and got enough liquidity, I was able to just buy out stores, buy out toy stores going out of business, buy out comic book stores. Um, a local one, it closed down. Guy went through a divorce and his storage bins went up for auction. I went and bought his whole storage bin for $50. Just the original TSR Dungeons and Dragons books, like a pile as tall as I am. I think I made about $4,000 or $5,000 just off that. Each book was going for like between $5 to $40. I got the whole bin for $50. So I was able to do that because I learned the industry. I learned what the toys were selling for, RPG, and again, this is all things gaming. Like I used to play D&D back in the day. This is all things I'm passionate about. So not only am I motivated, but I'm enjoying myself. So it's
Mhm.
not like, oh, I got to go to work today. It's, hey, I get to play with toys today. And like the work itself wasn't too bad. It was very monotonous to the point that I started paying my friends like 20 bucks an hour. Basically, I paid them per listing instead of hourly. It's I'm paying you 50 cents for every thing you get listed. How quickly you do it is up to you. So I had the one friend that would just sit there watching Buffy on the TV and typing stuff up. She made $5 an hour. I had another friend that would come over and just boom, 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 take all the pictures, flip them over, boom, 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 list everything. She made $20 an hour. So I gave them both the opportunity. You make as much as you want, and they did. The one that made $20 an hour, she has her own business out in Arizona right now, doing all kinds of stuff. The other friend, I think she's working as a cook. Um, And that's the mentality between the 9 to 5 hourly pay versus the contractual get paid for what you actually do difference. So there's sort of a psychological experiment too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one's not necessarily better than the other, right? Like
Yeah.
we still need people to do 9 to 5 jobs.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And as long as you're enjoying yourself, because again, like I said, she was watching TV and doing the work. So she was relaxing and doing the work. The other one was focused on the task and got more done. And both ways completed, both ways got paid, both ways made me money. It was basically every 50 cents I gave them. Average items sale for me was $5 after all the fees and all, 3.50. So I'm still making $3 profit on every item. And I just paid them so I had more time to play video games.
And what happened to that business? Did eventually just business slow down, or was it just a lot of competition, or
Oh, business was still going incredible. eBay had made a lot of changes, upping fees. We went like when I first started listing, you had maybe like a flat 8%. And then eBay and PayPal got together and they wrapped all the fees into one. So now it's like 13, 14% for eBay and PayPal. Then when they split apart, they increased the fee. So I'm paying like around 22% by the time everything's processed. And on top of that, cryptocurrency started kicking up about 2017, started kicking into the limelight. Decentraland was coming out. I got in the Mana token when it was still like, 3 cents or whatever, and it shot up. I started making ledgers for people. I was making paper wallets. I was making custom hardware ledgers for people to store their crypto, off network. Very important to have cold storage in case, an FTX happens. And eBay shut me down. They said I was selling cryptocurrency. I'm like, no, I'm selling a way to store cryptocurrency. So they want, and I think I made about maybe $6,000 across 2 months just selling ledgers, which is still a small portion of my toys and all. They canceled all the auctions, refunded everyone, even though I had sent out the hardware and everything. And then they still wanted to charge me fees on everything that I sold. So yeah, they took something like $4,000 out of my bank account and said I still owe them 1,000. So I stopped using them.
So did that also impact your toy store business, or that?
Yep, unfortunately I had it all under the same thing, so it
Oh, yeah.
completely shut me down. Um, I even opened up a new PayPal account, but when they did a KYC, they're like, "Oh no, you're the same person." Stole like another $800 out of bills they swear I
What?
owe them.
Oh,
So yeah, I had fun with that. So at that time, I focused on my marketing. Actually, decided to put my education to some use. So it was marketing, and then got into the auditing job. So I did real work, sort of. Set my own hours, worked when and if I wanted, and traveled like 2,000 miles a week. I just had music blaring, traveling around. It was great. So I just did that for a few years until COVID hit. And I just happened to buy myself a 3D printer that Christmas before COVID. So it was just going to be a hobby. Actually, going back to the board games, I wanted to create replacement parts for Hero Quest. I don't know if
mhm.
you've seen that board game, but it
Oh
has
yeah, oh yeah.
like
I own
270 pieces. And that was my whole inspiration for getting a 3D printer, was to reprint old board game pieces. And I have one complete and two half sets of like Hero Quest back here. They just released a new expansion to the board game, like a brand new expansion. Like within the last 6 months, they're bringing it back. But yeah, so I got the 3D printer. COVID hit, gave me lots of time to learn it. So I taught myself some basic Blender, AutoCAD type stuff, vector manipulation, and I got in some Kickstarters that uh, had very unique tabletop miniatures and gave me the rights to reprint, a commercial license to reprint and sell. And amusingly, from those Kickstarters that I got into, that is how I got recommended to Metasource Games, was through one of those 3D print Kickstarters. Came up on the, if you like this, you might like these. So I guess because I was looking at all this gaming, tabletop gaming stuff, it just pulled up gaming in general. But right now, I think I have like over 2,000 models I have the right to print, and I have 3 3D printers. And so far, I've just been doing word of mouth, business to business, specialty items, and just doing stuff for fun. I need to the task of listing all 2,000 items is a bit mind-boggling to me. I need to compartmentalize, breaking down 100 here, 100 there. But my goal is to get probably like a Shopify happening. I was trying to find something Web3. Origin Protocol has kind of like a Web3 Shopify, but they only made about half of it, and they're waiting for the community to fix the other half. So I'm probably not going with that. I'm probably just going to go with Shopify, but they do have a crypto add-on, so people could buy my 3D prints using Matic, XRP, whatever. So this would be a way for me to make money, but also kind of accumulate bags of miscellaneous tokens and just kind of forget about them. This is going to be my way of, because I hate holding. Like, I'm looking at the markets like, man, I could probably sell that and rebuy it for 2%. I'm always looking at the scalp. I'm no good at holding tokens. But I'm thinking with the getting paid in crypto, it's going to be enough that it kind of sits to the side and I forget about it for a while. That's the hope anyway. And that was the plan to do last month. Unfortunately, got busy with other projects, but 2023, hoping to push back through, get NRFB Toy Store officially open for business again, get the 3D printing happening, and hopefully continue some of my co-ops with the Web3 community. I have some ideas for making NFTs that you can cash in, and then I will send you the physical items. So like Forge events. They've done that with some of the shoes. You could buy the NFTs for the shoes, and then twice a year you could forge them, and they would send you those actual shoes in the mail. The RKTFT or whatever that shoe company is. I think they just signed with Nike or Adidas, like one of the big ones. But they have these forge events. I'm like, that's a great idea. Why don't I do that for miniatures? So hopefully that project 2023, I can combine that and have like probably on wax. So you'll be able to buy an NFT of a little miniature and maybe do some kind of like fragment thing. I don't know, still thinking about it, but be able to trade that NFT in and actually send the product like Funko does if you get one of their like holy grails out of the pack. And I like the concept of that, being able to trade NFTs for physical products and still be able to hold the NFT. So maybe I could even do collabs with some of the other projects out there. Like, this could become a hero unit in a certain game. So you could have both the physical item and then you'll get a redeem token that you can use somewhere else or maybe for a blend. So those are my thoughts incorporating, real life and the Web3 in my own future business endeavors.
So the figures that you want to be putting onto, well, let's talk about that second first. The 2,000 figures you have, those are of what property? Are they just different properties, or what are they from?
Most of them are original IPs created. Like one's a very much like Spelljammer kind of offset, and they have like zeppelins and airships. Like if I print one of these, it takes like 12 days to print. I can sell them for like $3,000, but they're like this big. Like it's like two cats stacked on top of each other. They're huge, and you have to print them in like 16 different parts, and then they kind of like snap together. So those are the really unique ones. Otherwise, just small miniatures, little elves, goblins, stuff like that. And then this is what I have handy. This is actually a Solana project, Block Stars. This is the dev's main character. And I got his little.
Yeah, I own like 3 Block Stars actually.
Okay, so yeah, I found you can access if you own the asset. Actually, I found a way to access all of them, but you can access a 3D file for all the different Block Stars out there, and I can edit that a little bit, process it, and yeah, print out little ones. You got the little earring, the sunglasses, so printable PFP projects.
Well, yeah, you connected us actually, and that's how I was in a couple of conversations with those
Oh
developers.
yeah.
I haven't talked to them in a while. That's cool. So now with Wax, you're thinking you're like what, gonna create collaborations with like games like Castles and Paco and Realm and blockchain dollars. Is that, and then you want to be having redeemables for those? Is that the plan?
That is the plan. I'm thinking of doing some kind of RNG with like packs and all, and maybe like fragments that you have to piece together, X amount. So, you'll get maybe like figure one's head and figure one's arm, and it'll have like 5 or 6 different pieces. You'll get them all in packs. If you blend them together, you'll have one full hero character. If you get a forge token and combine it, I'll print it out and send it to you. The hardest part is trying to figure out how to handle shipping. I can't think of a way to automatically handle it without creating like a whole smart contract and website. It might just be, waxback token, or like maybe some kind of shipping token, like domestic and international shipping tokens based on zone. But you combine those and stake them, or somehow get them to me, and I'll send you the physical item.
Mm-hmm.
But so you don't lose the NFT itself, you'll get a redeemed character. And at that point, you can't cash it in for physical again. But through collabs, like I'm all about metaverse. Like if you can have a single NFT and that gives you a skin in this game and a weapon in this game, I love stuff like that. Kaji just dropped something like that, the founder's key, that he's working with like 20 different projects, that just owning this one NFT is getting me exclusive skins and or characters in 20 different projects. And it's everything Solana, Ethereum, Binance. Like he's working with all the chains, and it's already shaping up pretty nicely. Because I mean, Fortnite, there's people spending thousands of dollars a month to get all the different skins and all. So if I can spend, $200 on a single NFT and get skins for the next few years in multiple games, I'm happy with that. And it also encourages me to try some of the new games out there. So it's almost like, a game of the month program. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my mindset of, if I get my own collection happening, to eventually have them incorporated. Probably not right away. Like I actually want to use this to promote my own 3D printing business. But down the road, there's so many things between collabs and networking and stuff that I've built up already within multiple communities, or down the road, maybe even working on my own game, like Waxel. He was releasing his ninjas for like a year before he even mentioned any kind of game, and then he took all those resources, put them into his little crafting loop thing, which I own, like, I don't even know, I think I got like 50 ninjas in there. But it's a fun little game, and I love the art style. It looks like Super Nintendo era. But same thing, maybe if I do enough off of this forging event, if it's enough to hire a dev, I got a dozen ideas for different games to play. So I'll just make my own game. If I don't collab with others, I'll just make my own game. And that'll pretty much be the white paper. It's like, here's what you're definitely getting. You can put these together. You can buy, sell, and trade. And if you get all of them, I will send it to you in the mail. Past that, coming soon. Maybe.
I don't know if that maybe part will go well, but
Yeah, I feel anyone that actually knows me, it's like, yeah, he's going to do something weird. Something's going to happen. But I've seen a lot the on Ethereum loot. It was a stupid little drop, and all it is an inventory. It, like, from a text adventure. So it's like +1 battle axe of fire, +2 pouch of healing. It was a procedurally generated inventory list. That's it. And it's not even text, it's a picture. So you can't even just easily copy and paste. But those were like the PFP. All the traits are these different items. And they just released this. The mint was $200. A week later, they dropped some gold tokens along with it. Those $200 mints were reselling for $110,000. The free coins that they dropped were selling for another like $15,000 off of just
get
this.
manipulated. I bet you anything.
All I know is my best friend's brother got a new house. Okay.
Good for them. Good for them. Someone's got to come out on top. Shouldn't only be the market
And
manipulators. That's for sure.
it could have been a manipulation, but it was a fun little program, and it showed that the just the concept of releasing something for other people. They basically it was an open source release.
Mhm.
Here's some NFTs. If someone else wants to do something with them, they can. But this is all we're doing. We're releasing this, and that's it. Have fun. And if you look at that, like if you do, yeah, if we go into D&D, like there's a virtual tabletop or something like that. If you could have it incorporate that inventory NFT into your actual character and make it playable, and that's what a few projects have done. I haven't checked progress lately, but there were a few different projects that are using other people's NFTs to make their project. I don't see how that's overly profitable because they're getting the first and secondary market sales, but it does save you from having to pay an artist, having to pay for smart contracts and all. So maybe that somewhere balances out, and you can still profit from releasing your own collection. But that was the whole concept: is we're releasing this. If anyone wants to do something with it, they can. And I think that was the hype that fed it. I mean, there's market manipulation everywhere, but just that concept of almost like an open source NFT collection. And I still like that concept. So if I do my collection, I'll be like, I'm releasing this. If someone else wants to do something with these characters, I will fully support it and help in any way. Or down the road, I might find a way to incorporate these characters. But off the get go, I'm not planning anything major. This is primarily for the 3D print business.
Mhm.
And, if it ends up, if I sell out of all my packs instantly and end up shipping like 200 miniatures, I'll be like, okay, something is here. Let me work on it. So it's almost like a soft test of the market to see is there a demand without me having to pre-invest all that time into a development team.
So if there's somebody who wants to stay on top of your 3D print business and collection, where should they go? Is there a website, nrfbtoystore.com?
Yeah, I've had that website for about 12 years now. I think I also have nrfb.net. I wasn't able to get the .com. Both of those lead to nothing right now because HostGator was overcharging me, and I got rid of them, and I kind of forgot to point the name servers to the new spot. So I just realized that earlier. So right now they lead to nothing. But in a day or so, nrfbtoystore.com will go somewhere.
We'll go somewhere, maybe, dot, dot, dot. But
Coming soon, maybe.
coming soon, maybe. But if people really want to reach out to you, I guess, what should they come to our Discord and tag you at NRFB Toy Store?
I mean, I'm NRFB Toy Store is where I'm at everywhere. Discord, Twitter, Steam, Twitch. I use the same handle everywhere, so I'm easy enough to find. It's nonstop branding, marketing, and hopefully I maintain a pretty good image. I've actually been doing a lot of escrow for people that don't trust each other, so they send me the NFTs, and then they send the coins over, and then I release the NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 ranches as a tip.
We
but
gave you ranches as a tip? Who gave you ranches as a tip?
someone that was they couldn't figure out how to do wax back tokens like 6 months
Mhm.
ago, but they wanted to do some
Okay.
trading. So yeah, I'm just like, well, just send it to me. You know me. And yeah, I was escrow.
You're building up that farm. That's great. I think one thing we didn't cover was that you're also a community manager for Crypto Stash, who's a crypto gaming influencer.
Correct. I started following him. I think 2020. There's a game, Crypto Space Commander, which is awesome. It's kind of like Elite, and I actually made a few bucks on it until Ethereum prices went so high that just $200 to mint a $10 spaceship just became ridiculous. But they actually had official Star Trek collabs. You can have Klingon bird of praise and stuff like that happening. But it was an awesome game, and he did a little review of it, and I watched it, and he had no clue what he was doing. So I'm there the whole time, like typing, do this, do that. Okay, fly over here. And I'm giving him like a quick tutorial while he was playing. And after that, I just started, checking out his channel when I could. And maybe about 6 months later, he's like, okay, you're in the community all the time. You want to come on board for, manage the Discord. We didn't even have a Discord then. He just had a Telegram happening. So came on, manage a Discord. I handle some giveaway contests, some special events. And with the 3D print side, we actually released, it was a theta drop that he released these NFTs. I think there were only 10 of them. And I think they dropped for about like $50. I think the highest resale on the market was about 270. And you could trade them in. And when you did, he would send you a fully painted crypto stash. And it was a little, I think, 5.5-inch statue of him in his whole gear. So
Mm.
I printed them out, and then he actually hand painted them himself.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm probably talking with Stash like twice a week, just going over there's so much stuff to cover. And also like just trying to get the community involved, like our community and everyone else's. It's like, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. And with Web3, either there's not enough marketing happening or there's too much noise. I always say like the best projects have no marketing and the scammers have the best. So you have to get through all that, desert sea farm world magenta tales and get to the actual projects releasing. And so both trying to inform people of that, and we've also been focusing recently, he's been playing web 2 games like Warcraft and Modern Warfare, trying to get back onto the web 2 side and see if we can like onboard some people. It's like, yeah, I'm playing this game here. There's a version of it where you can also own your own assets. You should come check it out. So, get the people playing Warcraft and pull them over to maybe Avalon or even like Sandbox on some level. So just trying to, and also just getting in more game time. He probably games about as much as me.
Right. What are your top 3 Web3 games?
Top 3 Web3 games. Trying to think, what do I enjoy? It's like I click so many buttons. I'm actively in 13 different ones, top of my head. Castles definitely associated with the dungeon release. I'm spending like 2 hours a day because I'm trying to refill everything. For those that don't play dungeons, you have a lot of recharge and refills. So it's like I have my common heroes do all my common battles, open all the common chests, recharge my uncommon, have them do their battles, use the loot from that to recharge my rares, do all their battles, and then I have everyone rest, charge my monster tomes, unlock all those, and then do that all over again. But with a CPU stake, I have to space that out about every 2 hours, do about 15 minutes of work because otherwise I max out. So yeah, that's probably at the top of the list. ZOS, Zombie Onslaught Survival. They're moving into their era 3, which is actually going to have like boss characters and all. Right now, they have multiplayer, so we can kind of do raids. Like you could stake a hero, stake a survivor. I could stake a survivor, and Josh could stake a survivor, and all 3 of us go and fight zombies. And it's like the nice thing about their game is it lets you pick how involved you want to be. You can pick 4, 12, 24-hour or 3-day, 7-day events. So it's like I have 160 survivors there. And I think I can click all of them in under 20 minutes, but it's like 80% of them, like 130 of them go on 7 days. So I don't have to deal with that every day. And then the remainders are every 24 hours, and they gather all the food and resources to heal everyone else. So it's a nice little thing. And their era 3 is actually going to be fighting mutated zombie bosses. So these are going to do boss fights that you have a higher chance of dying, but you also have to be a little more strategic and use attack cards. So like some zombies you want to be sneaky with and do sniping, other zombies you want to go, melee with, and there's going to be cards that you can play to do just that. So I think that's dropping the next week or so. So I'm probably going to be playing that a lot more. Right now, I've just been like every day, send everyone out, count what I get, heal, and do again. Come next week, it's probably going to be an hour a day doing the same thing, like rest, recharge, stake this, send these guys here. And eventually they're going to have, full map PvP and stuff like that happening down the road. So I love that I'm in these games now and they're getting more and more uh, evolved and involved at the same time. There's more stuff to do, but all the clicks I'm doing now, I'm prepped for all the future stuff. On castles, I got 3,000 royal seals because I bought them all when they were cheap. I told everyone else to. You saw me in chat. Buy seals. They're cheap. I was begging people. Me and Lou.
I can't give people financial advice, but you can. That's for sure.
And same thing with Zoss. I have like 5,000 coolers, which is what you use for healing. So I think they're going to do something, create more scarcity where you find less healing NFTs out there. So again, I'm already prepared. As for the third game, I'm trying to think.
The last one, the zombie one's on wax, right?
Correct. I actually found out about them through Castles. We did a
collab, yeah.
Yeah, collab. I think around this time last year. I think it was right around Christmassy time. And probably the other one would be the Millions on Mars. There's so much to do on it. I've overcomplicated it for myself because I wanted to get one of each building to try, and now I have way too much. I have no clue what's going on right now. They have rovers, they have habitats, and I'm still like, I'm just in my greenhouse making carrots. What the hell is going on around me? It's an awesome game, but it's very easy to get lost in. And I'm trying to reestablish how I play the game. Because when I first started, it was just like 5 buildings, real easy to maintain. Now I think there's like 35 buildings. And it's like I say all the time, like this is not a single player game. Same thing with Million on Mars. You can't be self-sufficient. You can't do everything at once. So I can make solar panels, but I don't know if I can keep up with all the food I need. So maybe I need to buy the food from a farmer and then sell him my solar panels, and work some kind of deal, because trying to be self-sufficient logistically is just not possible in a lot of these Web3 games. People try to achieve that, and maybe they have in some of the more simpler games because there's only like 3 tokens and 2 things to click. But once you get to the point that you have multiple crafters, you have multiple utility NFTs, there's actually strategy involved. And I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of players. Is they're over the last 2 years, especially on Wax, they're just used to signing in once a month and clicking claim. They think that's a game. Signing in every 4 hours and clicking claim, that's a game. No, that's passive with a little bit of work involved. That's passive, and you just have to reach out your hand and collect the money. Once you actually have strategy involved, people are not prepared for it. It's like, wait, I actually have to think. Do I want to recharge asset A or asset B? Do I want to invest money in this token or that token? Do I want to try to do everything myself, or do I want to focus on just a certain tier and then, buy and sell the resources from there? And, I look at everything like fair trade. When I eventually retire to my farm, I'm going to grow a ton of vegetables. I'm hoping I can take 50 pounds of vegetables to the butcher and trade him for, 10 pounds of meat or whatever the case may be. And I kind of look at that like the market, like fair trade. Yeah, we're dealing in wax or maybe M source or Silver or Dusk, whatever the case may be. It's not dollars. When you actually need to pay bills, it's good to know what the dollar value is, but 1 wax equals 1 wax to me. That's why you actually see me. I don't sell during the bull. I sell during the bear, because I'm going to get that 2,000 wax because wax price is down here. I'm going to get that 2,000 wax, hold on to that. And then, 4 months from now, that 2,000 wax has 4 times the value. So I sell during the bear to accumulate my bags. I'm not worried about dollar amount now. I'm worried about getting as much wax as I can because I know I'm going to use it. And same thing with the breakdowns, whether I'm going to buy, like I sold, I think I sold something like 90 million M source the other day, but I need to get T source. So, it was a trade through everything. And same thing, sold some castles, got another Baron. It's the first Baron I've acquired, first Baron I've purchased in probably like 4 months. I've been at 69 Barons for forever, since whenever I got mint number one in, I think it was the Carpenter raffle. I got mint number one. So I haven't increased my Baron since then until like 2 days ago. Because if you actually do the calculations, uh, instead of the farms always dropping mathematically, the packs, it's actually more profitable now. ROI with the current prices, Barons are actually more profitable this week than they were last week. So I see what the strategy is, sold some castles, got a Baron.
So you have Baron number one and Void Keeper number one. Funny. So what is the number one thing that all of these free-to-play games do wrong?
All of them. I'd say the free-to-play is okay. For free-to-play games, they assume that their free-to-play mechanic is good enough to be paid for. The free-to-play mentality is usually a very simplified version of a game, and once they get more complex,
Did I say free-to-play? I meant Web3 games.
okay, Web3 games.
Maybe I misspoke. Sorry. Yeah, I meant the Web3 games, not free-to-play, but the Web3 games.
Okay, Web3 gaming, I would say the biggest issue is marketing. Granted, I'm in the industry, but I have to do a lot of research to find uh, amazing things happening. Like there was a project the other day on Wax called Outlaw Troopers. I'm not sure if you saw it, but the actual gameplay, it looks like StarCraft. It looks amazing. And they did nothing on their drop. The only places I saw them marketing, like I'm on DAP Radar, I'm on NFT Insider, which are both Wax primary. Well, DAP Radar isn't, but NFT Insider is Wax primary. I saw no ads on there. The only place I saw them advertise was on like I think NFT Hive, which is just one marketplace. And the biggest issue that I have with people doing marketing in Web3 is they keep advertising to the same customers. Now, classically, this is a good thing to do. It's branding, it's recognition. That's why radio stations play the same commercials every 2 hours, because they want that jingle stuck in your head. But when you're advertising to, I feel, the Web3 community, if they see something they like, they buy it. If they see it and they don't buy it, it gets stuck in their head. So when they see it again, it's like, oh no, I already checked out that project. I'm not in that, so I don't care. The drop already happened probably, so I don't care. Oh, I've been seeing that ad for a month. It's probably too late to jump in. And I feel that mentality. Everyone wants to be first. So whenever an event happens, if they don't have the money that exact second, they completely just they compartmentalize it to the back of their brain and they never think of it again in a positive light. I feel the only way that these Web3 games are going to really promote themselves is onboarding either Web2 gamers or on different blockchains. Like DAP Radar covers multiple blockchains. I feel any ad on there, like there could be people checking their Solana stack and they see an ad for Wax that looks really cool. They're like, hey, I've been meaning to check out Wax. Let me see what's happening there. And they move over $5,000 and just throw it down on something. So any of the ads, any of the websites that cover multiple chains, I feel that could be a good marketing place. I think there's even like some kind of ad exchange happening out there. I heard about that focuses specifically on rotating different chains onto different advertisements. Like if I was advertising, if I had something releasing on Solana, I'd advertise that on Atomic Hub because I want to pull that clientele that have never even thought of Solana and be like, hey, we have something amazing happening over here. You need to come check it out. And then I go to Magic Eden and I'd advertise my Wax project. I want the people to come over and find out. One thing we haven't talked about, but I have a Play to Earn guild. Half the people that I have in there as my core members I actually onboarded them from a crypto trade channel that I'm in on Facebook. Has like 40,000 members, and I'm like the NFT expert because all they do is trade futures. That's all they talk about. That's all they know. So I'll mention, hey, there's an NFT game, and I'm making money just sending virtual heroes to fight virtual goblins, and I'll get like a dozen people DMing me like, "Whoa, how does that work?" And that's like half of my guild is people that have never played a Web3 game before, and I've onboarded them into this lifestyle, and now all of them are like clicking maniacs that have like, I think the one dropped like $20,000 buying assets across 3 games that he didn't even know Web3 existed until I just brought it up in organic conversation. So I think that's what Web3 games are missing is they keep trying to bleed a turnip dry. It's you need fresh faces both from a mentality and you need fresh wallets to come in. If Wax is kind of strapped because so many projects are happening, I feel you really only have the same players getting out of one project and getting into another. You're relying on Wax to bring in the fresh money. Wax itself does not promote as much as they should. They are an amazing chain. They should be in top 10, in my opinion. They should be dominating. They don't advertise themselves. So it's up to you to onboard the people. You need to bring the people into Wax if you're a Web3 project working on Wax. So advertise on Matic, advertise on Solana. Mission on Millions on Mars, they actually did some collab stuff with a project on Matic, sunflower farms. And it did huge for both of them. And it's basically if you just completed some daily missions and linked your wallets, you got an NFT on both blockchains just for playing the game for like 5 days, 5 days across 30 days. And you got a free NFT on each one that had pretty good value, 20, $30. But I know on the Million on Mars side, it brought in a ton of new faces to play their game. And then they also went cross chain is still a little iffy in my opinion for a lot of games. Like concentrate on one and get that focused. But same thing. Some of these games, Alien Worlds is on Binance, and they split their games. So you have the mining portions on Wax. The spaceship missions are on Binance Smart Chain, I believe. This I feel distracts because it's essentially the same game, but they're setting up different requirements for each one. I do not feel that pays off. I feel advertising cross chain is great, but actually making your game cross chain kind of dilutes things from what I've seen. I think cross chain in the future is going to be what we need. We need like I want to have a game that I can buy and I don't have to trade wallets 5 times over. I want to be able to play the same game with assets from everywhere. But we're not there yet. We need to get, we need to get all this chain stronger individually before we start cross chaining. So that would be my thought for Web3. Big thing I'm missing out on is proper utilization of cross chain promotion. Advertising good, cross chain gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Actually, I've always felt for the last I don't know, since we committed most of our funds to development and to artwork, that the one thing that we should have set more money aside for was marketing. But we've already had most of our resources committed, so that's been our biggest challenge. So I actually agree with you there, and the points on having cross-chain promotions are great points as well. Something I'll take into consideration. And yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to share with any of the viewers of this conversation? Any last thoughts, promotions? Go, check out NRFBTOYSTORE.com when it has something, very likely.
Yeah, coming soon, maybe. Biggest thing is in find out find ways to enjoy yourself, Web3 and otherwise. Like the biggest question I get asked probably is what game makes the most money? Well, I mean, this game makes the most money. It's only $50,000 to get started. Oh, I don't want to pay that. Okay, well, what do you want to pay? I got $1. Um, don't know how to help you with $1. What I suggest is whatever you're into. Like we have crypto of everything. There's a Halo clone out there. There's a StarCraft clone. There's a Roller Coaster Tycoon clone, all on Web3 right now. We have like almost everything that you could think exists. Someone's building a clone of it. Like we even have like an Animal Crossing. What is it? My Neighbor Alice is basically like an Animal Crossing Stardew Valley type game being planned, as big as Animal Crossing was for the last few years. And we have like a dozen different Pokemon ones. Polygon Chain Monsters, probably my favorite. Alluvium, huge one. So find something that, again, you're passionate about, something you're interested in. This is going to make you more motivated to play. And there are tons of ways that you can, make money by playing. Alien Worlds or Axie Infinity, when that came out, you could earn like, 300 small love potions a day playing for an hour. And then when they went up to like 60 cents or whatever they want to, if you sold then, you were making something like $300 an hour just playing a really dumbed down Pokemon game, in my opinion. So find something you like, whatever game you like. There's a clone of it out there. Find it and get involved with the community. Even if you don't like that specific game, maybe you'll find some alternatives to it and be the first one to be involved and actually help grow the game. So again, focus on what you enjoy. Don't worry about the dollars. If the game's good, the dollars are going to, make sense of themselves down the road. You can trade money for money. You can also trade time for money. So get invested in the communities, in the projects, and above all else, just enjoy yourself. If you do that, then, hopefully you can start making a profit along with, keeping entertained.
Excellent. Thank you so much, NRFB Toy Store, and looking forward to the 3D printing stuff coming out soon. And until then, I'll chat with you in Discord, and hopefully we'll see everybody else there too.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you for having me on, Robert. And yep, we'll see you. I'll see you on the battlefield.
On the battlefield. I'll see you in the dungeon.
Exactly.
The Dungeon Master. I'm looking down into everybody who's doing all the fighting.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.